principles, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Lynn, roll call, please.
Mike Higgins.
Here.
Lori Holland. Here. Fred Yan.
Here.
Diana Johnson. Here. Tina Johnson. Here. Stan Alweneal.
Here.
David Schrader.
Here.
Dan Boltner.
Here.
Craig Wortman.
Here.
Okay, we have a preview of the agenda. Dr. Burke, are there any adjustments or necessary changes from the board or anyone else up here?
I have not heard any changes.
Okay. Very good. The first order of business is board reorganization. As many people may know, this is my first time in the president's seat due to a resignation of the presidency at the October meeting. And what's up? Oh, sorry. How'd that skip over that?
I have no idea.
I was reading the little yellow thing on my screen. Okay, my bad. First public comment. The first public comment tonight is scheduled for 10 minutes. We are going to ask that anybody here speaking on matters other than resolution 9354 be given the opportunity to speak at the podium at this time. Otherwise, there is a much longer public comment session that we have scheduled just before that resolution goes for vote. I would appreciate if you step to the mic, announce your name. You all have cards. Those cards are to be turned in after you're done speaking in the basket next to the podium. It is not a sign up. For those who can hear me in this room and the other room, just filling out a card does not guarantee you a time at the podium. We have a 10-minute scheduled now, a 30-minute scheduled later, and then a 15 even at the end of the night. The board at any time can vote to extend those public comment sessions. But I can guarantee you with 250 odd some people here, and if you all wanted to talk, we're not going to get to it. So at a minimum, on the very first 10-minute public comment, this is being reserved for just those who have matters to speak to the board unrelated to 9354. Does anybody want to approach the podium and address the board? Nothing online, Tyler? No. Very good. Okay, my apologies. I skipped ahead last time. That closes public comment at this time. Number 3, reorganization. I jumped ahead. At the October meeting, the president resigned, making the VP, which was me at the time, the president. Per our policy 8210, in the event of an officer's temporary absence or inability to act, the board shall appoint another board member to discharge that officer's duties. And that would be done by voting, except for in the case of the president, in which case the vice president shall automatically perform those duties of the president. So, board members, it is my intention to only have an election for the VP, the vacant seat. And if there is any trickle down of that, the treasurer or the clerk, if they take that position, then we would have another vote. Unless someone would like to contest the presidency, in which case we'll vote for that too. Okay, very good. Then thank you for your vote of confidence, or at least your nods of heads. I am now the president officially, and then I will now take nominations for the role of vice president. Tina.
I nominate Mike Higgins.
Okay, Mike, do you accept that nomination?
I'll accept.
Okay, Mike Higgins, thank you.
I nominate Craig Wortman.
Greg, do you accept that nomination? Very good. Do we have any other nominations? Okay, we have ballots for that. Lynn, please hand those out or pass them down. And collect those when they're done too, so that they're not passed up. One short. One short.
There it is.
Bob joined the meeting.
Mike Higgins.
Okay, Mike.
Joined the meeting.
Mike was the treasurer. We will now have to fill that position. Do we have any nominations for the role of treasurer? Mike? Diana Johnson, do you accept that nomination? Sure. Anyone else? Any other nominations? Okay,
Like the nomination.
I like the nomination. Done.
Okay.
Okay,
Congratulations, everyone.
moving on to announcements and recognitions. The first up is the WHS Student Board Rep. I understand that they are not here tonight, so not in
Joined the
attendance. Are
meeting.
they online? No, not here tonight. Okay, so we will skip that. The next item is WASB membership.
Yeah, so just an annual announcement. This is our certificate of membership from WASB. They usually send it out this time of year when they also send out information regarding the state convention registration. So I want to remind you as members that that is their main professional development opportunity for everybody across the state. And just wanted to acknowledge that they sent us our certificate of membership.
Thank you, Dr. Burke. Okay, next up is strategic discussion. We have our enrollments projections from Roffers, and we were going to
Katie,
recognize.
Joined the meeting.
The name. Evan? You. Go for it.
Joined the meeting.
Far. So I will keep it short and sweet. Okay. Is this better? There we go. Okay, great. Let me pull this up a little more. Okay, my name is Nick Johnson. I'm a planner and project manager from a company called MD Roffers Consulting. We're an urban planning firm based in Madison, but we work with clients all across the state of Wisconsin. Half of the work that we do is working with school districts to help them plan for enrollment projections and help them plan for future facility changes. So the Watertown Unified School District hired our firm about 6 months ago to do an enrollment projections project, and we finished that towards the end of last month. Got the presentation. There we go. Perfect. I will have to say next then when I need you to move to the next slide. Ooh, this is the report. There should be a presentation.
Nancy.
Joined the
Pass that to
meeting.
him, Sarah, or- Okay. Not yet.
Raúl Ruiz.
Joined the meeting.
Sarah, I love Perfect. Thank you. Okay, we can go forward the next slide. Okay, so quick outline of my presentation. I'll first go over some trends in your district, enrollment trends, demographic trends, as well as housing trends. Get into our housing projections that factors into our student enrollment projections. Then I'll wrap things up comparing our projections to the building capacities of your school buildings. This presentation is a very condensed version of our report, which was, I think, 60 to 70 pages long that we provided a few weeks ago to the district. There's a lot more information about our methodology, projections, and other specific nuances and complications that I won't necessarily get in today that are in the report. Next slide. So overall, enrollments decreased in the Watertown Unified School District by about 600 students or so over the past decade, with the greatest decreases at the 4K level as well as the elementary school level. The Watertown School District is not alone. Virtually all school districts across the state of Wisconsin are experiencing the same thing. This does suggest continued enrollment decreases over the next several years as those smaller elementary class sizes replace middle school and high school class sizes. Next slide. This is almost entirely due to decreasing births that we've seen in the district. Again, the Watertown Unified School District is not alone. Births have been decreasing across the state and the nation as a whole over the last decade. They decreased from about 390 births in 2010 to about 310 births in 2019. That's a decrease of about 19% over the last decade due to housing market shifts, minimal housing construction in the 2010s, as well as large-scale macro demographic change. Since 2019, however, the last few years, we have seen births increase slightly. This is something that we're not seeing in every school district. We think this is due to recent housing construction that's occurred in Watertown, as well as the large millennial generation beginning to have children. Next slide. The community is overall aging. The median age in the district increased from about 37 years old in 2010 to about 41 years old in 2020. Again, the district is not alone. This is occurring across the state and the nation. However, as of this last decade, there's similar numbers of residents age 65 and older, so seniors, as there are children, about 5,900 for each population, which is something that we've never experienced before. Next slide. Private school enrollment in the Watertown Unified School District has also decreased over that time frame, decreasing by about 7%. Most of that's occurred in the mid-2010s. Since then, private enrollment has remained relatively stable. Next slide. Next slide. Housing price increases and an overall housing shortage in your community. The median home sale price in Watertown as of 2024 was about $290,000. That's more than doubled over the last 8 years or so. Still, the median price is pretty significantly cheaper here than it is in nearby Waukesha County or Dane County, about 30% cheaper housing here than it is in those communities. The Greater Watertown Community Health Foundation study, they did a housing study earlier this year that showed a shortage of about 1,800 single-family homes and about 1,000 rental units in the city of Watertown alone. Next slide. Those housing price increases and the exacerbation of the housing shortage has really been due to a lack of housing development that occurred over the last decade. From the 1990s to 2010, so the 1990s and 2000s decade, the district saw about 120 to 100 new housing units every year. Over the last decade, there was only about 26 per year, so significantly lower levels of new housing development. Next slide. There has been accelerated housing construction in response. Over the past few years, about 750 new housing units have been either approved or proposed in the city. The city has been increasing interest among regional residential developers, some from the Twin Cities and some from Milwaukee, that see the Watertown area really as a great market for them to develop new housing in. Next slide. It's really important in our work for us to understand how different types of housing generate
Join the
students for a
meeting.
school district. In the Watertown Unified School District, a new single-family home generates about 0.57 students. So you really need about 2 new single-family homes to create 1 student for your school district. That's significantly lower than the public perception, what most people think. A subdivision of about 100 new single-family homes, we'd get about 55 to 60 kids from that subdivision. And this is a very typical ratio that we see in other similarly sized and similarly positioned school districts. Next slide. New multiple family housing, that's apartments, townhomes, condominiums, anything but a single family home, tends to be marketed and populated by childless families. The ratio for that is about 0.02 students per unit. So a 100-unit apartment building, we'd really only see about 2 to 3 kids coming out of that. Next slide. The one exception is income restricted housing, also known as workforce housing, what we call in the urban planning world, produces students at significantly higher rates, about 0.3 students per unit here in the Watertown Unified School District. Next slide. Getting into our housing projections, next slide. A lot of our methodology to how we get to our projections lives in the report. I'm not going to go over today because I know we're constrained on time. But by 2040, we project about 2,400 new housing units in the district. That's greater than what we saw over the past decade, but getting back to the housing development levels that we
Join
saw
the
in the
meeting.
1990s and 2000s. Several reasons for why we expect significantly more housing construction are shown on the screen. Next slide. 1 out of every 3 new housing units we project by 2040 will be a single family home. We know that produces students at greater rates than do new multiple family units, which will be about 2 out of every 3 new housing units. Next slide. Getting into our enrollment projections. Next slide. So our projections do assume a continuation of current conditions. So current grade groupings at each school, current schools. I know Watertown doesn't have attendance areas, but just keeping that continuing to move forward. So no significant changes. We do project a decrease of about 160
Join the
students by
meeting.
2040. All of that decrease and more is really concentrated over the next few years and concentrated at the high school level. Your high school class sizes are significantly larger now than your current elementary class sizes. Your average high school class size has about 317 kids. Your average elementary class size has just over 200, significantly smaller. Next slide. After 2027, we do project enrollment to modestly increase due to the more housing development we just discussed. We do anticipate births to stabilize over the next decade or so, more employment, more commuting to Madison and Milwaukee. Over the next few years, we project that decrease of 240 students, and then after from 2027 to 2040, an increase of about 80 students. Next slide. For elementary schools, we project an increase of about 88 students in your traditional elementary schools through 2040. Next slide. Middle schools, a decrease of about 27 students by 2040, and high schools, a decrease of about 224 students by 2040. Next slide. Next one. Comparing our projections to the building capacity of your current school buildings. So assuming no future changes, we project your 2040 elementary enrollment will be between the combined target capacity and the combined maximum capacity of your 5 current elementary school buildings. So we project about 1,300 elementary school students with that capacity range of anywhere from 1,200 to 1,400 students at your 5 current elementary schools. Next slide. At Lincoln and Schurz Elementary, we project both will operate above their maximum capacity within about a decade or so by 2035. And then with Webster and Douglas Elementaries operating above their target capacity, but still remaining below their maximum capacity by about 2035 onward. Next slide. For middle school, we project enrollment to decrease there, but then increase towards the end of the 2030s, just becoming slightly above that target middle school building capacity where we are currently at. And then high school, we project enrollment to continue to decrease. There will be more and more excess capacity at the high school level through 2040 as we graduate those very large high school class sizes. Next slide. That's it. I made it short and sweet. Usually this takes about 20-25 minutes, and I was hoping to stick to about 10. I welcome any questions, any of you board members, or any comments you have now.
Along with PRA, who's doing our facility study, and working in conjunction with Roffers to do our population study. We're going to be having 3 meetings in December on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th of December, where we're going to talk about where should we go as a school district next. So if you're interested in those, please go to our website. They're listed there, and that'll be the next step in our facilities process.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Nick, for your, really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Join the meeting.
Okay.
Join the meeting.
Wow.
Most applause you've got.
An audience for an applause.
Also never happened.
Yeah.
Love it.
Okay. This brings us to our second of 3 public comment sections. And have a few things to read into the notes here. Fortunately, we were expecting a crowd and you all didn't disappoint. However, with crowd management, I'm not saying there's a couple of rule changes, just some rules of order that are always there, but nobody's ever aware of because it doesn't ever really affect us. So this session is slated to last for 30 minutes, after which time we'll take a pause and ask the board if they'd like to continue for an additional 5 to 10 speakers. I'll accept that motion after the first 30 minutes, so that clock will start at roughly 6:30. We will continue to follow that process until a majority of the board no longer votes to continue the session. We are here for board business. We are not here to hear from every single person in the room. I apologize. That also goes for the people online and the people in the room adjacent to this room. To ensure we hear from as many unique perspectives as possible, if your planned comments are reflected in a prior speaker's, please limit your comments to assert that, or just raise your hand when you hear something you agree with. Still, I don't expect that we'll have time for each and every one of you to speak. My apologies. I remind you that we'll be limiting public comment speakers to 3 minutes per person to speak. The timer will be displayed on the AV screens behind me. I'll give you a 15-second warning. At that 15-second, when the clock strikes 3, I'd ask you to please cease your comments and yield to the next speaker. We also ask that WUSD residents are allowed to speak first. If time allows, non-residents will be allowed to speak. Again, your compliance with that's appreciated. I would hate to have to tell any speaker to sit down. For efficiency and accuracy, this is something a little bit new. Note cards have been disseminated for you to complete prior to or after you're speaking. They are not sign-up cards. They are a roll call or a registration because we have to keep that record. And I do not want to diminish your time at the podium by taking 15 or 20 seconds of your time filling out your name and address. So please fill those cards out ahead of time or afterwards, and then leave them with Melissa Lampe in the basket next to the podium before you leave the room tonight. You don't have to do it immediately, but just please get it done. Regardless of that, when you approach the podium, you will still be asked to speak your name, your address, and any organization that you are affiliated or representing in your when you're addressing us. So a couple of other matters, just to make sure we're all on the same page here. Since November 1st, I assume most members of the board have received over 100 emails from some people in this room, some people not in this room, rationally explaining their position on the matter and encouraging us to support one version or another. I'd like to speak on behalf of the entire board right now when I say thank you for taking that time to send us the email. When you get 100 of them, and about 25 today alone, we don't each have the opportunity to say thank you or engage with you with the conversation. But we do get them, we do read them, and we do take them to heart.
Join the meeting.
Your passion and involvement in the community, the education system is impressive. So
Heidi
again,
Graf.
thank you. I'll also
Join the
say that the
meeting.
opinions expressed were roughly split. So know that although you feel that there's only one logical answer,
Join the
there's
meeting.
roughly half the people who disagree with you. Maybe plus 5%, maybe minus 5%. It's not too far off of half. Okay, lastly, two things I'd like to read into the record just prior to recognizing our first member at the time. Number one, a version very similar to draft A has been in effect in the district for roughly 8 years. No member of the current board or administrative team in front of you this evening was involved in its creation or adoption. That may not be consistent information you've heard out in the public. It is not new. Number two, in that 8-year span, dozens of students each year are supported by its existence with no known grievance or issue from other students, staff, or the community at large. That's just two pieces of information which I've seen, let's say, not represented fully. With that, I ask you to please be mindful of those facts. I also ask you to be please mindful of other speakers. And with that, I'll ask the first speaker to approach the microphone and state your name and address.
Can you hear me?
Tyler.
All right.
Tyler.
Hello, my name is Annie Vanderlinden, and you want my address, you said? N8071 High Road, Watertown,
Lynette.
Wisconsin.
Join the meeting.
I am currently a junior in Endeavor Charter School, and I would like to discuss the current predicament about letting students change in the locker rooms. Transgender students make up 3% of the average student body. Non-binary students and agender students make up the average 5%. Those numbers may seem small, but they are extremely significant. Recently, there has been brought up that some people believe transgender students should not be allowed to change in locker rooms of the gender they are transitioning to. This issue has been brought up in the past regarding bathrooms. As a student in Watertown High School, I can say with full pride that I have met very few students who are bothered by transgender students. I will also say there are possibilities to create unisex
Benji,
locker
camera.
rooms and
Join the
bathrooms
meeting.
within the high school and middle school. The high school has some locker rooms that are only used during the evening for sports. They go completely unused during the school day. Therefore, transgender students or students who identify as anything other than cisgender could use those locker rooms to change for gym class. This will prevent other students from getting uncomfortable, as well as give students the freedom to express and transition who they are themselves as they are comfortable. I would like to also bring up gender conformant plans. It has been recently brought to my attention that gender conformant plans have been erased from our system. I don't know how, and I don't know how frequently, but it has happened. The gender conformant plan was created so that students who identify as anything other than the gender they were assigned at birth have the right and freedom to be who they are and feel safe at school. Without these plans, mental health of students can decrease and suicide rates can increase. Not being able to be who you are at home or school will forever take a toll on someone's mental health and body. It is quite common for parents of a transgender student to come to the school in order to set up a gender conformant plan so that their preferred name and pronouns can be used for their child at school. This should stay the same. I also believe that students with parents who do not support them should be allowed to create gender conformant plans that will allow them and their school to use their preferred name and pronouns, even without the parents' knowledge. I know many of you will disagree with me on this, but I have met people with parents who are willing to disown, destroy, and even abuse their child if they were to come out as transgender, non-binary, or anything under the LGBTQIA umbrella. Although they are the parents of that child should still have the right to be safe and free to be who they are at school, even if the parents cannot know. Finally, regardless of anyone else's beliefs, I'd like to state a fact. Transgender students are human. They deserve as many rights as someone who is cisgender. Thank you for listening.
Hello, my name is Phoenix Whitty. I'm from Watertown. Um, I am speaking on the bathroom and support plans. But first, I want to start with a poem that was an adaptation from another one. I'm not sure what it's called, but first they come for the trans youth. I did not speak out because I was not transgender youth. Then they come for trans adults. I did not speak out because I was
Join the
not a
meeting.
transgender adult. Then they come for same-sex marriage. I did not speak out because I was not
Join the
same-sex
meeting.
marriage. Then they come for lesbians and gays. I did not speak out because I was not lesbian or gay. They come for those in interracial marriage. I did not speak out because I was not in an interracial marriage. Then they come again for the Blacks, Hispanics, Asians, and Islanders. I did not speak out because I was not Black, Hispanic, Asian, or an Islander. They come for me, and there is no one left to speak for me. And while all of you are arguing, yelling, and fighting about this, you refuse to stop and talk to any of us kids about it. Some never look for the inside view. Us kids are supposed to feel safe. All of us. Thank you for your time.
Hello, I'm Autumn Fournier and I'm speaking about the gender plans in our public schools. Is it okay? Thank you. I live at 1101 Crestview Drive. The ideas and practices of gender ideology are not only harmful to students and teachers, but also the well-being of the family unit of the country. In 2020, some people might be aware I was struggling with what other people told me was being born in the wrong body. In reality, I was a confused, insecure teenage girl. Implementing radical ideologies into America's public school further confuses our students. Social transition is the gateway to harmful surgeries and irreversible damage to the male and female body. Look at people like Prisha Mosley, Chloe Cole, Laura Becker, and hundreds of testimonies I've
Join
heard,
the
read, and
meeting.
seen for myself. When you take the mentally unwell and put in the idea into their head that they might be born in the wrong body, they will believe it. But contrary to popular belief, no child is born in the wrong body. Being trans,
Join the meeting.
and more specifically, telling children they are trans and affirming them is the easiest, most acceptable, and most medically profitable route to deal with long-term mental health struggles. Once a child begins a medical transition, they are for life tied to unnecessary procedures, drugs, medication, and therapy trying to fix a body they were told was broken. Children who are not immediately affirmed by parents are told their
Join the
parents
meeting.
are bad people, bigots, and will be the biggest difficulty in their entire life. Parents who do not immediately affirm and medicate and transition their children are told if their child kills themselves, runs away, get rehomed, etc., it is their fault. Tell me again what's so noble, accepting, and loving to tell children, specifically ones who I cannot stress enough, already hate themselves, they are born in the wrong body. It is unethical, untrue, and dangerous, especially because people that are usually told they are trans are neurodivergent, depressed, abused, struggling with their sexuality, and or have existing personality
Join the
disorders.
meeting.
I have seen the horrors of the trans movement. I have seen families be torn apart and people be mutilated and the mental warfare happening within. So please vote C, not only for the safety of your daughters, but for the safety of all children. Thank you, and please take my testimony to account.
What, really?
Hello, you hear me? Okay. It was only less than a year that the original transgender policy for WUSD was discovered. Cannot hear.
Can't hear you.
Pull it down. That's what they always say. I'll just hold it. There we go. Okay, better. Hello? Okay. It was only less than a year that the original transgender policy for WUSD was discovered. To inform the public, the original was one that is much the same as draft A. Oh, Tammy Cedarberg. 8579 North 8579 Hilltop Road. Sorry. I'll start all over again. Do I get a little bit more time? I'm sorry. Okay. It was only less than 1 year that the original transgender policy for WUSD was discovered. To inform the public, the original one was one that is much the same as draft A. But the most unacceptable part that the parents of the children who were pondering transgendering for themselves were frozen out of the process, and much authority was given to the teachers and counselors of the school. It was rightly struck down from the document, and parents' rights were strengthened. And by the way, draft C is not illegal. It was written with the help of the school district attorney and the administration. For how long the original policy was active in the district, no one seems to know, or I never got an answer. Most importantly, the parents were the ones who were in the dark about it. But now that we have draft A up for review and draft C to vote on, I suspect that had the information not been made known to the parents in WUSD, the board would have passed the policy that would force the children, particularly girls, to have to field encounters like seeing full male frontal nudity in the shower rooms suddenly coming out of nowhere before them, and make them wonder, what might this guy do to me? How would any of you adult women on the board like to experience something like that against your knowledge and will in a locker room in a private gym? But for some strange reason, it is completely fine for minor females under your direction and decision to have to field this. The parents in Watertown didn't know that their daughters could experience such a same scenario, but now they know. It is not an unfounded fear because it did happen in Sun Prairie just 35 minutes from here a little more than a year ago. The parents are here to watch you cast your vote. One particular participant of the school board said to me personally, for the kids who do not want to go along with the transgender agenda, they can say, hey, you do you and I'll do me. That sounds very good to me. But in reality, draft A makes that notion impossible in the incident that 25 children in WUSD who desire to transgender in this district can insist to the rest of the 3,275 children who do not want to participate in their choices by saying, hey, I'm going to do me and you are going to do me
Join the
too.
meeting.
Only draft C allows for each child to choose for themselves and have their adequate protections at the same time. How can the safety of the child who desires to transfer to transgender, who, by the way, is important and is valued, okay, and be protected? There must be the provision of a private bathroom for his or her needs. The school board has the express mandate to provide security and safety to all of the children in the district. They do not have the mandate to provide that each child be able to perfectly express themselves at the expense of all others. Please vote for draft C. Thank you.
Michelle Stewart, 1403 Schuman Drive. According to the 2023 Youth Risk Behavior Survey done by students in this district, students who identify as LGBTQ have roughly double the risk of being bullied at school and suffer from mental health concerns when compared to their peers. 40% of this district's LGBTQ students have considered suicide. 33% have a plan, and 18% have attempted suicide at least once already. These statistics are more than triple the amount when compared to their peers. These numbers are not all that different from the 2021 YRBS results. This is why I chose to wear black tonight, to show my support for them. My question to the board is, what are you doing to decrease these gaps? Have you considered and included LGBTQ student input and impact when drafting this new policy? Have you also considered the fact that just accepting a student for who they are decreases their risk of suicide by more than 30%? What is the real reason for behind changing this policy? Because it's definitely not for the protection and acceptance of an already vulnerable population. My oldest son is gay. He knew he was gay when he was in 6th grade. He is a freshman in college. That hasn't changed. My son has gone on multiple overnight trips. The staff involved handling the rooming situations, they handled it very respectfully and in a professional manner. They did not need a restrictive policy in place to be able to have a conversation with my son to make sure he would feel comfortable with his roommates. And I'm sure that they had a conversation with the other people that were in that room as well, because that's what people do, should do when including those that are different from them. My son and his friends are not a political agenda or an ideology. They are people with real, valid thoughts and feelings. They are already targeted by their peers just because they are different. They already feel less than half the sense of belonging that their peers experience. Education experts all agree that a higher sense of belonging in a school leads to a higher success rate, both in school and after graduation. How does denying them who they are help them to be more successful and less suicidal? Why is this board even considering passing a policy designed to cause harm to the students it is directly impacting? Why is this district starting to go down the same path as other districts with how they treat their LGBTQ students? Can this district afford to lose good quality educators because of how the district treats their students like those other districts? Can this district afford to lose more students to open enrollment outside of this district because of how this district treats their students like other districts? My son and his friends are not a political agenda. That's fine. That was my last thing I was going to say. They are not an agenda.
Stacy Estudio, East Main Street. Well, if it's not a political agenda, I'd like to bring up the $1 million in grants this district has received to implement these things. If suicide is such a hard thing for the LGBTQ students, then, and this has been put into place for what, 8 years now? Then why is it still a struggle if this was working? The last election in this city ran conservative. You are voices for your constituents. They are not allowed to dictate the words that I use, the words that children use. They're not a special breed. Boys are boys, girls are girls. That's the end of it. How many sexual assaults, indecent exposures is too many? Because your answer better be one, or you don't belong on this board. You guys have been selling our children's well-being for $1 million grant for years,
Heather.
and it ends today.
Join the meeting.
Lance Gopke.
Join the meeting.
All right, so I know you're getting grants for learning disabilities too. Please keep doing that so that the people with learning disabilities can continue to, all right, so my name is John Fritz. I wanted to talk a bit about, I think, what the main concern is in favor of this, and that is religious freedom. It is, and I want to talk specifically about the teachers being able to call students by either their preferred or their assigned pronouns. Right now, they are encouraged to call them by their preferred pronouns, but they have, correct me if I'm wrong, the religious liberty to not do that, correct? Like as it's written, they don't have to use the pronouns. But the new one says that they can't. So there's a requirement now. So now if their religious inclination is to call them by their preferred pronouns, now they don't have their religious right to do that. Religious freedom depends upon freedom of religion. In order to have a choice, in order to be truly free, you must be able to either be that religion, be a different religion, or be no religion, as long as you're not hurting other people. This is what religious liberty is. The people that came here fleeing religious persecution
Join the meeting.
led Christian nations. All right. I think that's all I have to say.
Join the meeting.
Can good evening, everyone. I am an 8th grader. I have been in Watertown Unified School District my whole life. Until this year, I have chosen to do online schooling because I do not want to deal with this problem. But here I am today facing the problem. Today, I am standing here to protect the girls of this school district. If I go back to Watertown High School, I do not want guys in my bathrooms, locker rooms, sports, or sleeping quarters. That could give them the right to hurt. That could give them the option to hurt any girl because you are taking our safe space. I don't feel comfortable about this. I left this school district because I don't feel safe. I knew that the school district was going to take a bigger turn, but this is unbelievable. You are thinking of putting boys and girls' locker rooms, bathrooms, sports, and sleeping quarters. I am terrified to go back if you allow boys into our private spaces. I will never come back. There is a reason that restrooms have signs on the bathrooms saying female or male. They should stay in the right bathrooms of their biological sex. When we should feel safe in the school, we should be worried about schooling, but we're not. We're wondering if we are safe. This is why you should pick draft C.
Join the
Thank you
meeting.
for my time. God bless you.
Just a second, sir. No, you're up next. That's fine. Remember, every single time you cheer and pause, you're pausing a speaker who has something to say, and I still will cut them off at 3 minutes. So you can call them out if you want to and cheer all you want, but it doesn't change the time at the podium. So you are limiting their speech. Go ahead, sir.
My name's Alan Showing. My daughter goes kindergarten here, first year. First thing I asked the teacher is, is there's this gender stuff that's going on. Come find out. When she responded, she says, no, we don't have that problem here. Obviously, that's not the case. And my thing is we have to protect our kids. It's not our fault that some of these parents can't raise their kids right and support them. It's that simple. And at the end of the day, my daughter knows what gender she is. At 5 years old, she is a kid. And I'm going to tell you right now, we should not be pushing this on our kids. They are kids. They're supposed to enjoy life no matter what. And if they want to worry about that later in life, when they're graduating, move on. But at the end of the day, that is not your thing to push on our kids. So at the end of the day, I don't appreciate thinking that my daughter could have a guy in the future come in her bathroom. I'll tell you right now, she ain't going to put up with that. She'll defend herself. I guarantee you that. Guarantee you that. I will fight for whatever in the future for my daughter. I will tell you that right now. But this sneakiness is what it really has come about. And I'm glad we're having this tonight. Thank God. But if I had known about that, I would have been more vocal a lot sooner. I'll tell you that right now. And at the end of the day, we need kids to know who they are. But at the end of the day, parents that can't raise them right is not my problem for my daughter to deal with. It's that simple. And this vote needs to protect our kids, boys too. Because I'll tell you right now, I have kids I race with at the racetrack. They're freaking teenage boys that don't want to deal with girls coming in their bathroom. It makes them uncomfortable. In a day, if you don't know who you are, if you can't sit down or pee or stand up, just go in the family bathroom. Not our problem. It's that simple. So, hey, that's all I got to say.
My name is Madison Lilja, and I'm a student at the Watertown district. And I've been going here for almost 3 years, and I'm in 8th grade. Transgender people have never been a problem to me, and as long as it doesn't involve me. But having to stand up here and talk about it, it really hurts. And I believe that a girl and a boy should be able to feel safe in their bathroom, locker room, or anything. And I just don't want to have to talk about this. I'm a believer of God, and I think the instances of rainbow have been taken out of hand. If I bring up a rainbow, I want it to be God's promise about floods, not about the LGBTQ community. And I believe that a girl should be in the girls' restroom and a boy should be in the boys' restroom. Same with swimming. We have to swim here at the middle school. And I don't think a boy would feel comfortable with a girl in the changing room. And I don't think a girl would be comfortable with the boy in their changing room. And if you aren't allowed to go into that locker room and feel safe, that's a problem. And thank you for your time.
Hi there, Nick Richards. I represent, I'm a youth pastor for Calvary Baptist Church, and I represent about 80 teenagers who can't be here tonight to talk. Just want to say thank you for the opportunity. Today, we're all expressing opinions about how we can build a community that truly respects and values every individual. First and foremost, I want to express my love and support for all of our students, our families, and community members. I believe wholeheartedly in treating everyone with dignity, compassion, understanding. Each person deserves to feel valued and safe. And at the same time, I know there are varied perspectives on how we approach certain topics and public spaces, such as restrooms, locker rooms, in a way that ensures everyone's comfort and safety. My hope is that we can engage in thoughtful conversations to find solutions that honor the privacy and safety of our children. I believe in extending kindness and love and respect to each individual, regardless of their background, identity, or experience. As I said, I'm a youth pastor with over 80 kids in our group. And in supporting our youth, I believe we must prioritize safe, private spaces, especially when it comes to maintaining our bathrooms and our locker rooms. For young people in particular, it's essential that these spaces are arranged to provide comfort, security, safety during such formative and often vulnerable years. First and foremost, it's an issue about safety. Bathrooms and locker rooms are places where students are most vulnerable, both physically and emotionally. Allowing biological males into these spaces creates opportunities for misuse and potential harm. Equally important is the matter of privacy. We live in a society that values dignity and respect, and students deserve environments that honor those values. Taking safety rights from our kids and forcing girls to share intimate spaces with biological males and vice versa, regardless of their gender identity, infringes on their right to privacy. This isn't about excluding anyone, but ensuring all students' needs are met appropriately. Lastly, we have to prioritize the protection of fairness in sports. We desire to ensure girls have equal opportunities in athletics, and allowing biological males to compete in girls' sports threatens this fairness by introducing inherent physical advantages that undermine years of hard work and dedication by female athletes. While we must approach this issue with compassion, we can do so without compromising on safety, privacy, and protection for our students. I believe that this starts by supporting Draft C, and I thank you for your time and consideration. I hope we can find compassionate ways to honor each individual's dignity while also holding to the importance of separate spaces that align with one's biological sex as a measure to protect our youth by fostering an environment where everyone feels both respected and secure. And I believe we're taking steps toward a more caring and thoughtful community in that way.
My name is Doris Wright. I'm at 147 South Concord in Watertown. I am a mom. I have a student at the high school, and I am also an employee of the district. I love my job. I love serving these kids. And I go out of my way to treat each one with kindness and respect. And whichever way this goes, I will continue to do that. I want to voice my concerns regarding the transgender guidelines the school district is considering and voting on this evening. I want to strongly encourage the board members to vote yes to draft C. I truly believe it would be best for everyone involved. Our daughters and granddaughters would be safer, and I like to think that the transgender young people would be safer too. I hate the thought of any bullying that could result if we allow this drastic change in our schools. Allowing biological boys to participate in girls' sports completely disrespects young athletic girls who are working hard and striving to do their best in their sport of choice. During the teen years, girls may be playing just for fun or finding out they're good or talented in a particular sport, or they may be very gifted and giving it their all. Whatever the case, we know that teen boys are already about 50% stronger physically, and having them in girls' sports would not only be unfair to the girls, but could even be dangerous. It is such a slap in the face. It is such a slap in the face to girls everywhere to take away their rights. The teen years are already a very awkward time. The last thing girls need is to have a boy in their bathrooms and locker rooms. We've also heard horrific stories in the news of trans fluid boys who have raped girls in the bathrooms and locker rooms. Our community should want to avoid this at all costs. We must protect our children, and very often it is our girls. As parents, guardians, and educators, we shouldn't promote surgeries that are mutilating our children or promoting drugs that will block or hinder their puberty years and quite possibly destroy their future. Many gender dysphoric young people regret these drastic measures as they become adults. Many are detransitioning and telling their stories on YouTube. As the adults in their lives now, we can encourage them by being there for them, listening to their fears, building them up. As the adults in their lives, let us be responsible and do right by them and protect our children. It's not really equality if it takes the rights away from half the student body, the parents, and the staff. Thank you very much.
Ma'am, pause, please. Pause. We're at our 30 minutes. Board, do I have a motion to continue for 10 more speakers? Second? Voice acclamation, please. Aye. Any against? One against.
Shirley.
Okay,
Join the
and
meeting.
For those, just a second, ma'am, I appreciate you're excited, but if you want me to accept all the cheers, then there are going to be some cat calls. So if you want the speaker to have the floor, then keep it quiet across the board. One for it, we're all in together. So I don't want to have to limit anybody, but you're all cheering. Expect some negative comments too. Just letting you know the rules of the game.
Good evening, Watertown School Board, and thank you for your service to our community. Thank you for your service to our students of the Watertown Unified School System. My name is Angela Morris, and I've lived in Watertown for 36 years. I'm thankful for the schools that are shaping and molding our future business owners and professionals and working members of our community. Recently, one of our Watertown coaches posted a need
Join
on
the
social
meeting.
media, a need for basketballs. The current budget did not allow him to purchase new equipment, so he put out a plea on Facebook. The community, friends, and family all responded, and he posted a photo later of the new basketballs that he was able to purchase for the junior high teams of this very middle school. But I wondered, why can't we afford basketballs for our students in our budget? And that was sad to me. So my question to you tonight is, we heard that we're going to have diminishing student numbers. And if we can't afford basketballs for our junior high teams, what budget line could possibly be impacted by your vote tonight? In looking around this room, I understand it's divided, but it appears that we have some very concerned community members. They want their children safe. So what if were to extract their children from Lincoln or Schurz or Riverside or Watertown High because of their concerns? What will be the budget impact if we lose students? Hypothetically, if losing just one student is equivalent to losing $10,000, what would you cut from the next budget? Perhaps more basketballs, a few band instruments, and a field trip? If 10 students were to leave the school system, what would you cut, equaling $100,000? Perhaps a few paraprofessionals whose help in the classroom is immeasurable and whose presence positively impacts student learnings. What if 15 students left to the tune of $150,000? Would you dispense of teachers to balance your budget? If just 5 students per school left for different schooling, how would you deal with the loss of, say, $400,000? Would you cut extracurriculars? Would you cut football, swimming, office personnel, Chromebooks, school security systems? What would you be forced to remove? I understand and I plead with you. Every person is valuable and no one should be bullied. And we hear you. We hear you. But please, school board, consider your decision. Haste is not the best course of action. Please listen. The safety of all students, is of utmost importance. Your vote will impact our students and thus our entire community for decades to come. Please vote C.
Hello, name's Lon Williams. I'm from Watertown here. Oh. Can you hear me? My name's Lon Williams. I'm from here from Watertown. Everyone here familiar with this book right here? This is the human anatomy book that is taught in these schools. You go through it, there is nothing in here that has to do with whether you can take parts off or put it on. It is taught 2 ways. That's it. Please stop interrupting me. I don't interrupt you. Don't interrupt me. Here's the other book. Here's another one. This is the biology book. This is of this entire planet, how it is made. How many of you are familiar with this? All of you? God made us and we made the book. Okay. How many of you are familiar with this? All of you on the
Sorry, sir. Luke, stop the crosstalk.
What I want to know.
You will be gavelled out. Please stop the crosstalk. You will be addressing the board and only the board. You do not address other speakers. Thank you.
My question is, where was the vote where we were going to go against this instead of the agenda that we're talking about tonight? Where was the vote to allow it to happen? It goes against exactly what we are teaching our kids in these schools. I have the same fear. I have 5 kids in the school district. I have a huge problem with it. We are putting our minor children in adult situations at this level. Why? Right here. This is why? Or is it this one? What you guys teach? That's all I have to say.
Hi, my name is Lily Copet. I just graduated in March. I work for the Watertown Unified School District with kids. There's only XX chromosomes or XY chromosomes. That's biology. That's what you are. There's nothing you can do to change that. There's nothing that's ever going to change that. That's where you go.
People deserve equality and not lies about XX chromosomes. That is not true. 2 X chromosomes exist. 2 Y chromosomes.
God bless you. God bless you. May God have mercy on you. Can I?
And we can't afford basketballs. Can't afford basketballs. How do you afford bathrooms?
Power if necessary. You stop the clock? Good. Okay. Yep. No, good. Time to restart. Thank you, ma'am.
I see no reason why little girls that go to school, start school, need to be scared to use the bathroom. Like I said, I just graduated and I would be scared to go to the bathroom. You see me, I'm not a small little girl. I'm not 6 years old and I would be scared. So that has to say something to one of you. I mean, one of you has to have a daughter. Look at any guy in this room. Pick one to walk behind her into the bathroom. So, my last thing is if you guys choose to pass this, may God have mercy on all of you because it's a big mistake.
Hi. Been a resident of Watertown for 3 decades. Oh, Sander, meet you. Navy veteran, proud American, and Christian. I have a daughter who is a freshman here in the high school. When I heard that this meeting vote was going to happen and the subject of the vote, I knew right away I had to speak up. My daughter's rights and safety were both at risk, and I would not sit by and let it happen. The first course of action I took was to go up to the school district offices and ask for a copy of the agenda, any list of proposals being offered. 3 days before the meeting, and the agenda was not out yet. Inexcusable. Fortunate for me, I ran into one of the board members. Hi. We had a nice discussion for about 45 minutes. The talk was very enlightening. That person told me we're talking about affecting 25 students out of 3,300 basically. To think that this will only affect 25 students is extremely naive at best. It will, in fact, affect all of the students deeply and the community at large. He informed me about a few of the options for bathroom redesign that were being considered. One of them was a full stall private room with a common washing area. What kind of cockamamie garbage is that? I asked him how much it would cost to retrofit all the bathrooms in all the schools here in town. The look on his face speaks volumes to me. And now I heard about the basketballs. How are you going to redo a bathroom when you don't have money for basketballs? Since when should we appease the 25 at the cost of the 3,275? My daughter, as all girls in our schools, have rights as well. One example would be, say, a girl having menstrual issues and a boy walks in. What kind of trauma would that cause her? If my daughter was standing up here with me, what would you all pushing this SEL, social emotional learning agenda, say to her and her right to privacy? Say a couple breaks up, boy and girl, and the boy follows her into the bathroom. What would you guys say to her, his or her parents? I wish that the superintendent would have also informed me that of the nearly $1 million the district has received since 2017 to push this various social justice issues. If you read deep into the SEL agenda, it is meant for, you will notice, mental health issues, not social justice agendas. How can anyone claim to be for diversity, equity, and inclusion when all reality they only mean when someone believes exactly as the liberal agenda says they should? It then turns into division, exclusion, and intolerance. Please, even though I hear you have already just made up your minds on which way you will go, please vote for option C.
Good evening. I hope I can speak the rule of reason. role of reason is being ignored here. How many of the incidents that we've heard have actually occurred within the Watertown School District in the last 5 years? The admission of people of different sexual orientation using the bathrooms and having an interchange with someone coming out of a stall. How many of those have happened? How many persons of changed identity, if they're trans, being on an athletic team has happened? Any? Why should we change if it's not broken? Don't fix it. There were various students who came up here tonight and gave their impressions, their fears of what might happen. But how many of those incidents actually happened? Would a trans student who walked in and also talked to you be accepted in the same way? You are Christians. What does Christianity mean? It means you love your neighbor as yourself, regardless of that sexual orientation, regardless of the color, regardless who they are. It's not broken, don't fix it. I'm here to speak forcefully on Selection A. Now let's get into another part of that, Title IX. If you adopt this Section C, it'll be against Title IX, which prohibits discrimination based on sexual orientation. Does the school district want to get involved in litigation? Does the school district want to get involved in exposing itself to liability if they adopt this policy? I would say no, as a voter. We have enough shortness of our income that we're considering referendums probably in the spring. So therefore, I would urge you to support the current situation. It's not broken. Don't fix it. And thank you for your service on this panel and your vote tonight.
Good evening. My name is Jim Drinwater. I'm a resident of Watertown, 213 North Church Street. I'm a dad. I'm a blue collar welder. I'm a Christian man. I got lots of cheers for somebody else a little bit ago. I'm not going to get those though, because a lot of people know who I am already. I'm here to talk to you about, policy C. I'm here to talk to you about how it's exclusionary. I'm here to talk to you about how all of you folks know how we're doing financially. It seems like a lot of people behind me don't seem to know how we're doing financially because we're curious about basketballs. But everybody in front of me is very well aware that we will be going to referendum. We saw an awful lot of people holding up signs for C. How many of those folks are going to be voting yes to pay more money for the school? It's not an awful lot from people who don't. Okay, well, I guess we will find out, but it's a lot of people that don't go to the board meetings normally, that don't show up, that don't show an interest, that only care when they get riled up on Facebook. I don't know. This has been out for months. It's been months, readily available for everybody to hear about. We have been hearing about policy A, policy C, policy S2 for months. I've been going to every single meeting and I've heard about it from most of you. Now I'm going to try and appeal to the 5 of you who I don't think have made up your mind yet, or if you have made up your mind, you're at least leaning towards reason. We should not vote on a policy that is going to bring us liability for a
Join the
lawsuit
meeting.
at the same time that we're going to be going up for referendum. We don't have the money for this. We just don't. The most knowledgeable and qualified person that we have in the district right now is the person who drafted policy A. That's a fact. It was right there. It's all been right there.
Again, you will address the board or you will be removed. That's it. We have business to conduct. This is not a public meeting session. This is a board meeting. Last warning. Thank you.
It has all been available for everybody to be there. I know that for a fact because I've been there at all of the meetings. I've talked to so many of you. We have people crying out about forced and compelled speech, but none of you has ever felt the need to come up to me and call me James. Not one. Almost every one of you calls me Jim. Why? Because that's my preferred name and it's the one that I give you. No one questions that. Nobody wonders whether or not that's really the name I was given on my birth certificate. That's not compelled speech. That's just common courtesy. That's what it is. There's nothing wrong with calling our students what they want to be called. My daughter deals with the bullying every single day. She deals with it in a world where I don't feel like she should be, where I don't feel like it's safe for her to be open about who she is right now. And it's because of the people behind us. The last thing I just want to say is that I'm appreciative of the things that you do as a board. I appreciate all the work and effort that you've put into trying to navigate this really sticky situation. And I'm really disappointed in the Watertown. I'm not from Watertown. I'm a resident, but I'm not from Watertown. And until tonight, I didn't really know what it was like to live in Watertucky, but I certainly know about it now. Thank you.
My name is Diane Regent, and I live at 509 South Fifth Street in Watertown. The purpose of law is to protect our rights. If rights are based on feelings or opinions, then we are constantly then they're going to be constantly changing. Because feelings and opinions are not reliably stable. Our Constitution and the Bible claim that rights come from the Creator. You are here to rule on whether or not the freedom and safety of children who feel they're in the wrong body should override the rights of those who believe their genetic identity is compatible with the rest of their identity. Please consider the safety and freedom of both groups. Everyone has a special purpose and special worth because we are made in the image of God. We will all be judged one day by the choices we make in this lifetime. I'm going to pause at that. I am a parent here in this school district, and I have 2 boys in school, and I don't want girls in their restrooms because I don't want my students, my son, my 2 sons, to go against God and be tempted by girls in their locker room. You're all boys, you're all men, and you're not going to, any of you could ever tell me that you wouldn't be moved by a naked woman in your locker room or a girl with a boy in their locker rooms. I don't see what the need is. We are all born in the right body. Thanks so much for taking time to honestly listen in the light of the fact that your choice matters for all involved, now and later.
My name is Kayla Coots. I live in Watertown, and I have 3 children in the Watertown School District, 2 in high school, 1 elementary. I speak to you today on behalf of our kids because that is what this is truly about. As a parent of a child who has explored her gender identity in middle school and had a resulting mental health crisis that involved hospitalization and suicidal thoughts and actions. Transgender suicide rates are alarming. 46% of transgender and non-binary youth seriously considered suicide in the past year, with 14% attempting suicide compared to 7% cisgender youth.
Join the meeting.
Today I share a story, though, of a theoretical transgender boy. He's known since he was young that he was different, and for the last few years, he's been living as his true self. Just another one of the guys. His family supports him, but they've recently moved to a new school. Now, everyone at the new school only knows him, not who he was. But he still wakes up every morning anxious and afraid, not knowing what to expect. A few hours into classes, and he's got to go, just like everyone else.
He asks his teacher for a bathroom pass, and when he gets to the bathroom doors, he stops. Where does he go? To all his classmates, he's a boy. If he goes to the girls' restroom, the girls would freak out. He'd have to explain everything, and then everyone would know. If he goes into the boys, he's terrified he'll get in trouble if the faculty see him. Or he can trudge all the way to the front office and use the designated bathroom. And how long would that take to have to do that every time? What if someone else is using it? What if someone else sees him using it? And the embarrassment when the class clown or bully points out how long it takes him. Now rinse and repeat every day, every time. Imagine when he hears his dead name during the last class of the day and his worst fears have realized he's been outed to his classmates. That fear from this morning is justified. Imagine the bullying that's likely to ensue. 49% of LGBTQ plus youth, ages 13 to 17, have experienced bullying in the past year. Those who did reported significantly higher rates of attempting suicide. He reminds himself that he has baseball practice after school, and at least he can feel free there. Hang out with his friends, let everything go, playing the game he grew up with, only to realize a second too late, this too has been taken away from him. The one thing that made him feel normal, even helped with his mental health and let him recover from the stress of the day, is now gone. Now, this is just one day in the life of a transgender child. At the end of the day, why transgender children are more suicidal than peers their age? Transgender rights are life-saving. More than half of transgender and non-binary youth found their school to be gender affirming, and those who did reported lower rates of attempting suicide. I urge you to vote to protect them, help our kids live normal lives. Truly, just help them live.
Hello, my name is Jessica Van Buren. I am at 700 South Fifth Street in Watertown here. I've got 2 kids at the high school, and up until tonight, I was really proud of the Watertown School District because I have a transgender child in the school district, so I feel like I can stand up here and be really confident in the policies that have been in place up until today. Absolutely fantastic support from the student, from the staff, from the schools to just allow the empowerment of these kids. There haven't been any incidents. There's no problems. These kids want nothing more than to be left alone and to be included as who they are. They don't want to go into any bathrooms and rape little girls. That is not what they're trying to do. And I would also probably point out that there's actually not a magic force field on the current bathrooms that prevent anybody from the opposite sex from just walking in if they wanted to be a predator. So a magic policy isn't going to stop a predator that wants to be a predator. The policy that we're discussing here is about supporting kids that are outside of the norm and are trying to just be themselves. I would ask though, who is this policy really trying to protect? Because it's not trying to protect trans kids, so let's not try to pretend that it is. I would say that if protecting trans kids is the goal, then it's not going to work, because now if policy C or whatever is approved, I'm going to have to protect my kids from all of the hate and vitriol that gets taught by all of you all at home. That's what I am terrified of. We talk about bullying. We talk about how people want to talk about Jesus. We can save the Jesus talk because that's not what I learned about Jesus. So spare me on that. Our teachers and the teachers and the staff in these schools are the ones, if you actually knew how these policies were in place and the amount of work and time that went into implementing them and supporting these kids, you wouldn't have a problem with it. If we would just educate ourselves a little bit before we just got angry, you might have a different opinion about it. And the last thing that I wanted to say is that just because you don't agree with it, the existence of transgender people, it's different than sex. It's different than anatomy. It's real. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean it's not real. And I don't think that's up for debate with the board.
Hello, my name is Gene Schmidt. I run 2 transitional homes for men in Watertown. My ministry owns the former hardware store strip club in Kleiman, and we have a meal each month for the poor. I still believe the God who created heaven and earth created male and female. Amen. And I want to support the 450 girls in the high school that aren't transgender, that should have a private bathroom space for those girls. I want to support
Join the meeting.
these gals that should not have to worry about a boy that decides one day he's a girl. So he gets the privileges of being on a sports team. He gets the privileges of using the girls' bathroom. If you're worried about a lawsuit from the LGBTQ community, you better be worried about lawsuits from traditional family communities. They have a voice. And today, they far outnumber the small percentage of transgender community that goes to the school. My heart goes out to those kids. We help them when they're homeless. We help them when they need food. But I'm not supporting conflicted students, a small percentage, to tell the 99% this is the way it should be. You are elected officials for a school board to uphold decency, morality, values that once made America strong. I say we need them back again. And so I urge you all not to think this issue's 50-50%. It's not. It's probably 90-10% in this room. And I want to urge you, vote so that our school district doesn't have multiple lawsuits, girls assaulted. We do not have families conflicted that want to teach their kids right and wrong and have biblical values. Finally, our strip club was the home of the worst sex trafficking in Wisconsin. I don't want to see one daughter or grandchild, and I'm speaking a lot for the girls, even though I had 3 boys. I don't want to see one assaulted in a bathroom. I do not want to see a parent have to deal with that. And as far as kids conflicted with their gender identity, we still have good churches and ministers in town. We'll be happy to help you. Thank you.
That was the next 10. Tyler, I understand you have 3 online. Can you, I don't want to say pick one at random, pick the first one that raised their hand and let them speak. Okay, Steph, you're online. You have the podium. Thank you. Okay, caller number 2. Megan.
Hold on. Let me get you. There you go. You have the camera too.
Okay.
You have to say your name and then where you live.
I'm Jacob Wagner and I live on Oak Hill Road. We have 5 students in the Watertown School District in our family, and we've got 2 boys and 3 girls. We know the difference in our house between boys and girls, and we would like to see it stay that way in the school district, that the girls feel safe in the locker rooms and the bathrooms, and that they don't have to worry about boys walking in or vice versa the other way around. So that's pretty much all we have to say about that. Thank you.
Okay, Mike. Okay, board, we extend that another 10 speakers. I'll now take a motion for another 5. Sam, second? Second. Second, Dan? Okay, roll call, please, Lynn?
Mike Higgins,
No.
Lori Holland. Yeah. Fred Yant,
No.
Diana Johnson. Tina Johnson. Nope. Sam O'Neill,
Yes.
David Schrader,
No.
Dan Boltner,
Yes.
Craig Wortman.
No.
5.
5-4.
5
5 noes? 5 noes. Rest of the speakers, I appreciate your attendance. Sorry you didn't make it to the mic. You appreciate that we have board business to conduct. There's going to be another speaking session at the end of this meeting, which will be run very similarly, where we will continue for 3 to 5 speakers apiece. But that will be at the end of tonight's proceedings. So again, thank you for your attendance and waiting in line. You can appreciate that we have business to conduct. Thank you. Okay, and before we move on to the actual board debate, I would just like to thank all the speakers who came up. And if you didn't yet drop your card in the basket, please do so. And Melissa, is there going to be a spot besides the front of the podium that they can find that? Is it going to be in the hallway or anything like that? They'll just have to come in here and drop it in here? Yeah.
Yeah, it's right here.
Okay, we'll just drop it in here if you haven't dropped it in, but it looked like most people were doing that. And also for all the speakers, I appreciate that almost every one of you to a T kept it at 3 minutes, which the board greatly appreciates, as well do your other speakers. So thank you on that. With that, we are up for a resolution. We read the resolution first, or is it available up above us? Want a motion on that first? Or is it, I have it here. Okay. Motion. Okay. The motion in front of us is 9354. Be it resolved that the Watertown Unified School District adopt draft C of the Administrative Procedural Guidelines for Gender Support Plans as discussed during the November Policy Committee meeting. Do I hear a motion? So moved, Craig. Second, Diana. Thank you. Discussion. Tina.
Obviously, I mean, there are strong feelings about our proposed transgender administrative guidelines. And this may be a topic not understood by some, but it may be a topic that is inconsistent. And it may be a topic that is inconsistent with your personal beliefs. However, we are a public school and have a duty as a nonpartisan position to not govern with personal beliefs and to follow the law. I stand strong and unwavering to stay with draft A for these reasons. We need to follow the law of Title IX. We are in the 7th district. We need to follow the laws of the 7th. If we choose a different draft, we are breaking the law. Not following these regulations from the Department of Education, we face the possible loss of our federal funding. We risk strong financial implications for the district. When a lawsuit is brought to the district, our insurance company will cover us to settle a claim. However, to continue pursuing it will not be covered by our insurance company. I'm on the policy committee. When we started this in August, we were open to other options. However, shortly after learning more, I fully supported the administration and our attorneys' work in draft A. Just like when you're a kid and think chocolate milk comes from chocolate cows, and we learn as we get older, that's not how it works. Just like being on the committee and better understanding of administrative guidelines are developed by the administration, not a board process. The administration developed previous guidelines in 2018, not the board. The administration and staff have done a great job in working with all students. They've done a great job with the transgender guidelines, and I will continue to support them with drafting.
Thank you, Tina. And I forgot to mention, we have this slated for 30 minutes, board. It's been the norm of our board to use that as a reference. We haven't typically followed that down to the T, but I'm going to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to speak, obviously first, some discussion, some Q&A, And if we feel that there's either no progress, it's going to require a 2/3 vote to either call the question or close discussion. So I don't know if I'll have to ask for that after 30 minutes. I mean, the goal is that, you know, we'll still have productive discussion during that time period. I just want to make sure that those of you who are familiar with rules of order, that we'll be enacting that if necessary. But if we go over a little bit over 30 minutes, it's not going to kill anybody here. We've done it before. So
before we move on, if you as a school board member can do some mic management, there's a mic in front of you. If you can move that closer if you choose to speak, or we also have a handheld mic that we could pass around. It was hard for people to hear. That's okay.
Okay, anyone else? Sam?
I mean, yeah, I could speak.
I turned it on already.
Yeah, I speak at least kind of in reply. Let me start by asking a clarifying question. Jared, was draft C created in conjunction with administration, specifically you, and with legal counsel?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because I was at that meeting, but I wanted to refresh my memory. So that is indeed the case. Both of these were drafted with administration. Sponsoring is something that the school board has done for many years. Just wanted to point that out. And no, I don't think I have anything else to say. I just wanted to clarify that one point. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Does my voice sound soft like Sam's did?
Yeah.
I have a lot to say, but I want to respect everyone's time. So I crafted the following statement and kept it under 3 minutes. I practiced. As an elected board member, it's my responsibility to listen to the needs of the community, as well as to uphold and enforce the policies of the district, the laws of our state and nation, and to ensure the safety and education of all students. I cannot support guidelines that don't do that. Draft A was crafted by the superintendent and follows the law and Title IX with the executive order to include gender identity. Unfortunately, it doesn't meet the desires of a large number in our community who've outwardly expressed their displeasure for the notion of biological males in the female bathroom or locker room. Draft B was then crafted to address this, but Draft B isn't up for discussion tonight.
Shirley. Join the meeting.
Draft C was then created, but in Draft C, there's violation of policy 5360 that specifically protects against discrimination by gender identity. This is not a new policy. It doesn't say anything with Title IX. It was crafted back in 2015 and last revised in 2020, which means it's not connected to the executive order that was enacted in August of this year. Whether you agree or not, it is policy, and it's our job as a school board to ensure that policies are followed. Additionally, there are practices in Draft C or processes in Draft C that don't make sense to me as an educator. How then can we, as a board, pass on to administrators the administrative guidelines to enact these in schools? How can we put our staff in a situation where following the guidelines set forth by the district puts them in a situation where they could potentially be sued for not following policy? Both drafts as currently written could open up the district to potential lawsuits. Draft A meets the requirements by the executive order attached to Title IX. Will that executive order be lifted in a few months and gender identity no longer be included in Title IX? Who knows, but we can't vote today based on something that may or may not occur in the future. Draft C already violates board policy the way I read it. Draft C can Draft C be modified so it doesn't violate board policies? I've tried multiple times in these past few months to share ideas on how to change the verbiage in Draft C so it wouldn't do so. My suggestions were not used. I'd be happy to go through this document one more time. I have notes here if that's the desire of the group, but as both drafts are currently written, I don't like either of them, and I feel my hands are tied and there's not a good way to vote.
Much has been said that this hasn't been a problem. I would tend to agree that this shouldn't have become the issue that it has. In fact, if it wasn't for the fact that these guidelines were surreptitiously created, locked away in a computer server, confidentially kept from parents, the superintendent, and the school board since 2016, and never a public discussion had. I would agree with you. On second thought, this whole room full of parents beg to differ. If this conversation were held in 2016, parents would have been able to speak up then and put this issue to rest then. School board members don't live in a vacuum. Things get back to us. Trust me. It's completely disingenuous to say that there has never been an issue simply because you agree with the outcome of a particular practice. Compromise. C is the compromise. If it were up to some people, boys are boys and girls are girls, and that would be the end of it. Instead, the committee had a desire to look at an alternative that allows for gender expression, to be able to be called by preferred names or pronouns, even have their preferred name to be announced at commencement and listed in Skyward. It also allows for accommodation to be made on a case-by-case basis. How is C not in compliance with the Seventh Circuit? If anything, C allows the administration to find a creative solution to have those accommodations comply with the Seventh Circuit. That transgender students be allowed to use a bathroom of their choice according to their asserted gender identity. What the Seventh Circuit did not say is that other children had to be attending that private space at that same time. Think about it. How could it? If we can't force a child to use a private space that they're uncomfortable with, then that applies to all children equally. A child and a parent of a child has a reasonable expectation that they're entering into a private space where the opposite biological sex isn't present. Compelled speech. Peter Vlaming from Virginia. Jessica Tapia from California. Yojuri Mandaria of Florida. Vivian Garrity of Ohio. And many others like David Bloch from Vermont. What do they all have in common? They are teachers whom have won lawsuit after lawsuit across this country over the very issue of compelled speech. One of such settlements was the amount of $575,000. Other cases, and there are three specific landmark decisions. First, free speech does not allow a government to coerce an individual to speak contrary to their beliefs on a significant issue of personal conviction.
Chad Wiestenberg.
Woolley versus Maynard in 1977 stated that the right of freedom protected by the First Amendment against state action includes both the right to speak freely and the right to refrain from speaking at all. In fact, compelled speech is one of the most settled issues of this particular draft, with landmark decisions over and over again. Instructing a teacher to use preferred names and pronouns is tantamount to requiring teachers to disavow their religion if the district is unwilling to find or make an accommodation that serves everyone equally. Also, if a parent teaches that their child that there are two biological sexes and two biological genders, it is the 14th Amendment right of that parent to direct the upbringing and education of their children under their control. And that's the child's First Amendment right to adhere to that belief and refrain from speech. That child should never be disciplined for their deeply held religious beliefs or convictions. The English language doesn't belong to marginalized groups. It belongs to everyone. For the same reason that the First Amendment protects the rights of those people who refuse to stand for their Pledge of Allegiance, it protects all who refrain from speaking as well. They don't have to capitulate to the same worldview.
Any other, Mike? Yeah.
Anybody that knows me knows, I probably did not think.
Join the meeting.
I'm gonna do that. I can talk pretty loud. But anyways, anybody that knows me knows I didn't prepare a speech. I didn't prepare or write anything down. I just rather have a conversation, right? I start with Diana, and I kind of agree with her. When I look at A and C, there's not a good choice. There's not a clear choice. I go back to my phone that has blown up quite a bit in the last couple of weeks, and there was no clear choice there, despite what this room says. I promise you, it was almost split down the middle. I didn't count it, but you can say bullshit all you'd like, sir. I got the floor now. So anyways, despite the rude interruption, I'd like to continue. Now, I have children that went to this school as well. They've been here my kids have been going to school here for 20 years-ish. And not once have I heard any one of them come home once saying that they got a problem with somebody trying to get into a bathroom or a locker room that they were going into, including girls. My youngest girl, I promise you, I taught her to defend herself, just like the gentleman that said earlier. Never once did she come home to me and say she had to. Now, when I read this on A, it says student support plans may indicate that the student will use the locker room consistent with gender assigned at birth. It doesn't say that we can open it up to anything immediately, right? It also says that it's going to be on a case-by-case basis if we read into this. I can tell you that there have been some transgender kids in this school, and there hasn't been an issue to my knowledge as of today. I put some full trust into the administration that is in place. They've done a great job enforcing what they need to do.
That side of the table is tapped out. We go on this side.
Sam and I are the new members of the board. And one of the first things I was handed when I became the member of the board was a flow chart of the hierarchy of this district. We have a superintendent who oversees all the schools and the teachers and so forth. We have 9 board members, each with a vote, who oversee the superintendent. And at the end, we have you people. You are our bosses. And I think you spoke loudly tonight about this issue and what this community wants.
So I've been listening to everyone tonight, and I appreciate all of you who have come out and spoke. And I've been staring here. If you've noticed, I've been looking up. If you noticed, I'm sorry. I haven't been looking up. I haven't been watching because I've been sitting here and I've been staring at both of these drafts the whole night. And you can say what you want about compelled speech, Craig, but safety is my #1 concern. And it says here, student support plans may include the student will use the locker room consistent with the gender assigned at birth, a private locker room, or other alternative, which may include an addition of a privacy partition or curtain, use of a nearby private restroom or office, or a separate changing schedule. So either you're in the locker room of the gender assigned at birth, or you're in a private restroom, private locker room. That seems pretty safe to me. Unfortunately, that's draft A. Draft C says, in keeping with the district priority to preserve student privacy and safety, and unless otherwise required by law, students shall use restrooms, locker rooms, and other facilities on district property and in district-sponsored events consistent with their biological sex. All right. Student and or parent requests for an accommodation to this guideline shall be considered by a team of district staff on a case-by-case basis in consultation with the support team. We don't get specifics there. There's no specificity. We don't say you're in the one by your birth or you're in a private one. we just leave that up to the district to make that decision.
Will.
That's draft C.
Join the meeting.
I like the specificity that's in draft A. Either you're separate by gender or you have a private option. Draft C, there's wiggle room there. I am concerned. This draft C is much better than it was in October when I was at the last policy meeting. But I still don't think that this is fully baked. I think there is still language that needs to be tied up because I still think there's loopholes that can be used against the district that do not address safety enough. So I don't know which one I would vote for tonight. And to be honest with you, if I had a choice, I would send it back to committee to do it right the first time. Because you've had 4 months to do this and you still don't have the right policy.
That's everyone except me. I'm not necessarily trying to stay entirely on the sideline, but last time I read my job description as president, it's to administer the meeting and weigh in.
Join the meeting.
So I will continue to try to do that unless no one else wants to speak, rebut, or have additional comments on the subject.
Yeah, I would just like to clarify, I think when we were discussing section 2, subsection D of draft A, when it's talking about the maintenance of separate locker rooms and restrooms, the specific wording there, it does not state that students will either use the bathroom that is consistent with their gender assigned at birth or a unisex restroom or another alternative. It says student support plans may indicate the student will use the restroom consistent with gender assigned at birth. Oh. Okay.
That's my point. The restroom and the locker room language here are inconsistent with each other.
Okay, so I apologize. Yeah, no, thank you for clarifying for me. I think.
Sorry, Sam, I apologize. Just a second. As many of you know, we're normally in a boardroom with better microphones. It's unfortunate that we're in here and not entirely every single person mic'd up. At a minimum, the public never speaks during board deliberations, ever. Now, I am going to give everybody on the board a kudos because you're doing a great job reading with the microphone and reading from a script when normally this is a lot more informal. So this is unusual for us as well. So this is by no means a disrespect for Sam or a disrespect for Fred or the people who want to have a discussion. We follow Robert's rules when we can, but we're also a fairly informal group who's had plenty of time with each other to have questions asked and answered. So I'm going to give everybody up here a fairly wide berth. I will not give the public a fairly wide berth because your situation hasn't changed. You are still supposed to be mute while we are talking and deliberating. So,
Chad Wiestenberg.
I appreciate it because, like, you
Join
know, I mean,
the
we've got the
meeting.
speakers all over the place. So no, thank you. So
one more warning to the room, please. The public does not speak when the board is deliberating. I can't be any more clear. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that section of draft A. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for clearing that up, Fred.
Anyone else? Okay, I had a hint at a motion to refer back to committee, although none was made. I will revisit that if that's what the full board wants. My 2 cents on the subject is reflection of all of yours. I see that C has come a long way. I see a lot in C that isn't as unilateral as it was when it was originally drafted. I still see gaps between what our insurance company has told us we can and can't do, should and should not do, as well as most recent legal advice, which is punt. They said, whatever you think about the law today, in 2 months, it's likely going to change. Now, maybe not in 2 months. There's probably going to be some resolution that comes out or some edict or some directive, and then it's going to take a long time to trickle its way through the courts. So who really knows when that's going to be? And there's not a single board member up here who wants to be up here at this time, who hasn't had their heart rate at 115 for the last 3 days, who hasn't fielded 100 emails and a dozen phone calls. Sometimes people are nice to us, sometimes they're not. We try to be nice to each other and make the best decision we can. And I think we're doing a pretty darn good job of working together when it's not that easy. That being said, I'm interested in making a motion to draft C, adding section 8 called limitations.
Join the meeting.
That motion would read, or excuse me, that section would now read, notwithstanding any of the foregoing, nothing in this guideline compels or requires district staff, contractors, or service providers to act in contradiction with WUSD policy or in violation of applicable law. It's one sentence, one section. It's not perfect. That is a motion to amend. Fred has seconded it. We are now open for discussion, and I will read it if you want me to. Please, okay, I will. Notwithstanding, and this is again, section 8, limitations, which would be the last section in the document. Yep. Notwithstanding any of the foregoing, nothing in this guideline compels or requires district staff, contractors, or service providers to act in contradiction with WUSD policy or in violation of applicable law. You got it. Fast or slow? You got it. Notwithstanding any of the foregoing, nothing in this guideline compels or requires district staff, contractors, or service providers to act in contradiction with WUSD policy or in violation of applicable law. So we have a motion and we have a second. I believe that opens it up for discussion. It is designed in my mind to cover up, I'll call it the warts of C, the spots, because C, I'm not saying was thrown together. C, there was a lot of thought to it, but the law is ever changing. And we know it's going to be ever changing. Furthermore, precedents in court cases are ever changing. Right now, applicable law is the 7th, Wisconsin law more specifically. We also have good guidance from our insurance companies and our attorneys. However, there could be a new court case next week. And I can tell you the sentiment I got from the room is if you're concerned about basketballs, the one last thing you want us to do is get sued and lose $500,000 because we can't defend ourselves. We know what the insurance company has told us. They told us where the thin ice was and they said, don't skate on it. C gets a little bit too close to that thin ice, in my opinion. I want to pull us back from that edge. I also want to turn this back into an administrative guideline, which it was intended to be from the get-go. I have no issue with Sam and Jared working on it. I think in August, I was the one who proposed it. Seemed like a good idea. And I still believe that the board should be involved in that. But when you read the policies that we're going towards, not that are currently in effect, but we know there's a distinction between policies and guidelines. And guidelines are specifically housed and owned by the administration. They may have the approval of the board, but the board does not normally write them. And I'm not saying that, once again, I was a proponent of Sam's sponsorship and champion of this. That doesn't bother me. I'm saying is that there's too many components of it that once put into action in the buildings are going to require interaction between Sarah Udenhaven, the principals, come back to the superintendent, find out how the gender support teams understand it. There are going to be modifications, and this board should not micromanage those modifications. This has to be a living, breathing document because the last one was, as is every other administrative guideline. Okay, so this is not new for this district. New is having us make significant changes to an administrative guideline as a board. My goal is to protect the district and to protect the kids. Hopeful that those one sentence in a new section does both of those things. That's my goal. And yes, I wrote it.
I still got a microphone. So David, a question I got for you real quick is, would you find it wise to run this past insurance again to make sure it does cover, I'll say it, the warts? I'm not opposed to making changes. I just want to, like you, I want to protect children and I want to protect the district. I don't want to see us getting sued. So would it be wise before we make that change, run it through, or have you already?
I got this one in my hand. This feels better. No, I have not run it by any district council. Now, could we? Yes. Then it'd be to refer it back to committee for either that addition or other changes. Fred alluded to some that he might like to be seen. Diana still has some queued up. You know my concern, because I said it at last policy, which is I don't want to continue to be talking about this policy we did it for the last 4 months. I'm not so sure we want to do it for the next 4 months. However, the last we heard from our council was delay it. If you can delay it past February, you're going to be in a lot better ground. And I talked about that thin ice. Well, maybe that thin ice will be thickening. Maybe it'll be open water. Either way, we're not going to find ourselves without a boat. So sorry, Craig.
Oh, all right. I'm open to that amendment. I think there has to be something in there that provides some flexibility from a legal standpoint, but the insurance, I just wanted to clarify something. The insurance provider reminded the district via their memo that of its right to settle a claim that it believes cannot be won. That's nothing new. If they choose to settle it, then the board will the board will be made aware of that decision and we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So there's several things to consider in that. They didn't say they wouldn't cover us.
I hope I didn't insinuate that they did. Like to use here. The first paragraph, and I think we all have it, the public may or may not. I'm just going to read from the second paragraph for those who have it in front of you. And this is the insurance company's letter to the district in August. Specific to the most recent interpretation of Title IX. The new regulations prohibit schools from adopting a policy or engaging in practice that prevents a person from participating in an education program or activity consistent with the person's gender identity. The Department of Education has made it clear that public school districts must allow transgender and non-binary students to use the bathrooms and locker rooms that correspond with their identity. That was the ruling in Title IX. The rest of the document explains a lot of, well, this is what happens when you do, and this is what happens when you don't. And you're right, Craig. Not following them does not mean that we are not covered. I didn't mean to give that implication. It just means that if we choose to pursue it and they want to settle, we have to do it on our own, which I think you and I, that's how we both read it. And they're insurance providers. Now they got attorneys. They're not our attorneys. So they're looking out for their bottom line. I get it why their attorneys advised us to do that. At the same time, they're probably not dumb attorneys. Okay. They know where the money is likely going to end up in that situation, and they don't want it to end up in anybody but ours pocket. They don't want it to end up in the plaintiff's pocket. So from that, I read this and I'm like, that makes sense. That's the way that I read it. So once again, I'm not trying to give deference to this, but it's a pretty well-written document.
I'd like to call a question on the amendment.
That's a 2/3 vote to call the question on the amendment. Yep. Roll call, Lynn.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. Okay. Then roll call vote on the amendment, and I'll read it one more time. If I can find it. Section 8, limitations. Notwithstanding any of the foregoing, nothing in this guideline compels or requires district staff, contractors, or service providers to act in contradiction with WUSD policy or in violation of applicable law. If there's no additional questions on that, I'll have a called question on that, do we? Yeah, that was called the question. Yeah. So that's a roll call vote, Lynn.
Yes.
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 Chad.
Join the meeting.
Okay. So draft C is still on the table for consideration. There has been no motion called on that. It is still open for discussion. And I lost track of time, so I don't even know if we're at the 30 minutes. Okay. Okay.
Wait.
Yeah, closing discussion does need to be seconded. But I didn't know if there was a crosstalk over there that you guys were still, if somebody want another, get another word in. Okay, yeah, okay. Okay, Tina called the question. Do we have a second? Okay, second. So roll call vote needs 2/3 to stop discussion on draft C. We are voting to stop discussion on draft C. We're not voting on the merits of draft C. We're voting to cease discussion on draft C, which requires a 2/3 vote. Okay, motion carries. Roll call vote on adoption of draft C. Yes.
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 And the motion carries. Next item of business. Next item of business, please. Is that gonna be you, right? Good, because I don't know what I'm going to say. We're going to take a 5-minute recess. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's actually in my Robert's rules that I'm learning. You can take a pause. Yeah. I don't know.
So, board members, as we move forward, many of you know that through a couple of different committees and at least one subcommittee, we've been talking a little bit about the need.
Excuse me, newspaper reporters, can you step outside, please? Josh, yeah, you on it? Have the newspaper reporters do the media outside, please. Well, whatever. I'm switching to ABC anyway. No, okay.
Okay, as I was talking earlier, we have discussed at a couple of different committees and at least one subcommittee, the possible need to go to a referendum. We've talked most recently about the need for a $7 million recurring referendum that would add approximately 70 cents to the mill rate. If you are in support of that, and there is a why, what, and how about why the need, what we're planning on doing, and how we're going to go about doing that in your board materials. There is also a sample rough draft ballot language as to some of the things that we were discussing in fiscal. But if we do intend on going into referenda, our first mission is to let the public know our intent of seeking referendum. All that statement will be is a resolution about our intent and what we're intending to do that alerts the public that we are having serious discussions about going to referenda. In December, we will then be bringing finalized ballot language for discussion both at the fiscal committee as well as the board next meeting in December. That has to be passed 70 days prior to the election in order for us to have ballot language that will go on the ballot. So with that, we're entertaining a motion or any questions or discussion around our intent for referendum.
Yeah, clarification on this. For the most part, this is just to notify the public of intent. The final language will be crafted in December. Is that correct, Jared?
There's a resolution at the end of our meeting.
Okay, yeah. So at this point, that's not the motion. This is just the strategic discussion portion of it. And we will open it up for discussion during the resolution. So this is just Jared's presentation of it. And there will be, I think, additional information later in the agenda. Tyler, how are we doing on those microphones that are on the table? Are you took mine away? Are the other ones still working, or what's our status? Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure. Okay. Okay, pass the wireless. Hold on to. Got it. No, I just wanted to make sure that when we get to the, I'm just wanted to make sure that we had the rules of engagement here. I think everybody in the room can hear us, but the people online still probably can't. And if there's anybody in the annex, they might not be able to either. So just wanted. Okay. Okay. So I just wanted to make sure we knew who we were talking to. Yeah. Okay. Lynn, what's next? Okay. I got to get to reports here. Just a second. Superintendent reports. Back to you, Jared.
Excellent. Tyler, if you could pull up the report. So just wanted to start off with this nice little picture of these wonderful ladies on the right-hand side. These are past and present nutrition services leadership team. They meet to discuss all things nutrition services related. Great group of ladies, and I just thought it was a wonderful picture. And it also tells you we have a lot of people who support our students in many things. They present a lot of discussion and options and ideas for nutrition services. And so I want to thank them for their service. Some celebrations. I want to talk a little bit about something that makes a big difference in my life. I've got many family members who have served in the military, and we had celebrations to honor them on November 11th for Veterans Day. And the RMS band and choir and orchestra performed for our veterans and guests, and as sure as students honored their special guests with a couple of songs as well. I want you to know that our WHS sophomore, Braden Krantz, was presented at Schurz as was present at Schurz to perform taps on his trumpet and did a wonderful job. Just want to say that I appreciate that we honor our vets in this school district, and that's a big part of our community. Go ahead, Tyler. A couple celebrations. U.S. World and News Report has given a couple of distinctions. The WHS has received this recognition for over 7 years. And it's a high recognition, being one of the best schools, high schools, recognized by the U.S. News and World Report. Also, it recognizes all of the schools that are in College Board and AP Honor Roll recognition. As you know, we have many AP courses and a number of students who take those courses and do well in them. And you have to do that in order to get recognized at the high school level. U.S. News and World Report also awarded Webster Elementary, Lincoln STEM, Best Schools badges for 2025 for placing among the top 40 of elementary schools in the state, with Webster finishing in the top 10%. I wanted to congratulate all of them and all that they do as they move students through our system. So congratulations. Opportunities. Remember that our state convention is registration is open. We are scheduled to have that professional development event January 22nd through the 24th, 2025. It will be held again in Milwaukee at the Baird Center. Registration forms were emailed to board members on November 5th. And they should be returned to Lynn no later than December 11th so that we know and we can make accommodations for your stay if needed at a hotel, and to get you registered for the professional development event. So this is just a reminder of that opportunity. Next, Tyler. I want to make you aware of something that we're going to support this year. Our community for a number of years through the Main Street program has done what's called the Women's Only Weekend, or WOW. Why is WUSD joining this event this year? Well, you know as well as I do, one of our main goals is to support our community as well as communicate better. We're doing this option to do both, support our community, our local businesses, as well as those people who are going to go through those businesses on the Women's Only Weekend. But we're going to do so in a way that also markets our school district. At your desk spot, you have a little sheet of paper about this size. This piece of paper talks about registration for our 4K and 5K programming. It talks about our facilities committee meetings happening on December 3rd through the 4th. And it also gives them a link to our new strategic plan. We're taking that as a marketing opportunity, a way to really communicate with people, but also support our businesses. So again, that's an opportunity coming up on November 22nd through the 24th this weekend. I'm also on Wednesday going to help stuff all of those as well as other items from other businesses into those swag bags for all the ladies. So congratulations to WOW for organizing that event that supports all of our businesses, and we're happy to be sponsors of that event. Also, we had some of our first of our several Burke briefings. Again, I didn't name it, but I'll own the name. This last one was held November 7th at the Marquardt. There were approximately 23 people in attendance. We talked about strategic planning, facilities, a referendum, partnerships, and celebrations. The next of the briefings is held January 20th and March 3rd, both at Watertown Public Library at 6 p.m. Those are for the community. Today, I also shared a briefing with our Rotary Club as well as our high school BLT team. That's the building leadership team at the high school. So we are working again within our pillar of increasing communication, not only to our community, but within our staff and those support organizations that support us like Rotary. Again, an opportunity for everybody in the community, and not only that, but our board. We have a staff session, staff only session on Tuesday, December 3rd to talk about our next step in our facilities planning process. And then Wednesday, December 4th and Thursday, December 5th are optional for our staff, but also inclusive of the community. One will be at Riverside on December 4th, Riverside Middle School here, and one at Schurz Elementary. There'll be large group discussion. Childcare is going to be provided for everybody who wants to attend. And we're going to take you on optional building tours after we have our discussion about facilities and our facilities study and discussion about where we want to take our facilities into the future. Last is just some important reminders for you. No school on December 20th, early release for all students. December 23rd through the 1st is winter break. A lot of committee and board meetings coming up. We got one on November 20th, which is a board retreat. That's this Wednesday. December 3rd, educational services, the 4th policy review. The reason I'm saying these is because just like November, December meetings are in advance. On December 9th, human resources, December 11th, fiscal management. Planning does not have a meeting, and our regular board meeting will be early on the 16th. Any questions? It's my report.
Thank you, Jared. Next up, fiscal management report, Mike.
All right, fair enough. Geez, now I'm really yelling. So we met last Wednesday, and everybody was present, for committee members. We also had, Fred, Dr. Burke, Sarah, and Kevin Suko, and Stacy Riedel, was there virtually. We had an ESSER 3 update. The committee was provided with a breakdown of how ESSER 3 funds were utilized. Good news, all the funds will be spent and claimed by the final deadline, and all the funds were utilized under board-approved categories. WUSD was fortunate in being able to utilize these funds for many new and additional projects rather than covering regular operating expenses, as many districts needed to do. Referendum planning discussion. We had a summary of the referendum results from November 24 election. Overall, the number of districts going to referendum continues to increase, and a passage rate for November was a staggering 78%. The committee reviewed the what, why, and how sheet and considered its sample ballot language. The committee recommended moving forward with an intent to go to referendum resolution at the November board meeting, and will revisit ballot language at the December fiscal committee meeting. Roffers, we saw them come tonight. Sarah provided a high-level overview of the report completed by Roffers. Some key points included the following. New housing developments have been stagnant in the district over the last decade. There are several new housing developments being proposed and or being built. The only population growth in the district over the last decade has been in the age group of 65 and older. Enrollment for the district is projected to continue declining, especially at the secondary level, until 2040. Enrollment at the elementary level may become steady and begin to slightly increase around 2035 and into the 2040s. If all factors remain the same, Roffers will be in attendance at the November board meeting to provide a more in-depth presentation of the report. There were no questions regarding any other monthly reports. Future agenda planning, the long-term facilities plan is on the agenda for December, as well as referendum ballot language. We did go into closed session to discuss the construction management RFP recommendations. We re-entered open session at 6:50. And we adjourned at 6:53.
Next up is Ed Service, which turns out to still be me. Jenny presented several components to our directors. First of all, a meeting was held on Tuesday, November 5th. Chair and all members were present, along with other distinguished guests. Director's report covered elementary literacy, 4K update, WHS math update, and then we had presentations on Teachnology. We had a lengthy discussion on the WHS course book, which included some, I don't want to call them major changes, some swaps. And Mr. Domer's department, those will result in a resolution as it requires board approval for those changes, and they were recommended. And then lastly, we had some changes to the law day system, some questions for Principal Kerr. And at the very end of that, I don't want to say there was confusion. Let's just say that we need alignment in what we're trying to get out of the law day program. I'm not saying that things are arbitrary, but it probably needs a revisit. And the Ed Service, let's see, where do we put that? That's in the notes somewhere. But we're going to revisit that with Mr. Kerr at some point in the near future, just to go ahead and make sure that we're all on the same page on what we're getting out of law day and what we expect it to deliver. So I'm pretty sure just one resolution, and that's the curriculum changes. Was there another one with that German, or did I miss that? No, nobody remembers. Yeah,
I
we'll get
remember.
there.
I'm online. Sorry. The one resolution includes both the.
Yep, that was it. And then we adjourned, and next meeting is next month. Next up is who we at? Human resources. Tina.
We had our HR meeting on Monday, November 11th, and we, of course, went over the usual consent agenda, of which there is a resolution tonight. Regarding that, we had the majority of our discussion regarding calendar work group. And this is something that we've been talking about over the last several months. Margaret had put together a team of staff who was very dedicated to the options. I'm very, very proud of the work that they all have done and the time that they have taken. They have taken this on their own time. All of the board members, of course, had the opportunity to be a part of that if they so chose. And so out of that, you will see a resolution tonight for, I'm so sorry, the committee went through information. They put out several surveys to staff families, and did we do the community too? I'm so sorry. I should have just read right from the thing. And so the recommendations came back with a modified traditional option for both the 2025-26 school year and 26-27 school years. You will see a resolution for that. Modified traditional basically means that there will not be a full week at Thanksgiving. So they will have school on Monday and Tuesday of Thanksgiving, and they will be out before like the 9th of June. Okay. So, and those are reflected in the calendar. I just wanted to highlight, those were the really two major changes. Correct me if I'm wrong, anyone. Let's see. And then we did also discuss, as far as like the committee had also put forth work into alternative schedules and things like that. And then also talking about like, okay, early release Wednesdays, but we know that that's a bigger discussion than what the HR calendar handles. And so that will end up going back for some feedback and things like that, administration, ed services, something like that. So we talked about the exit survey process as far as that's concerned. If you're interested in that, the detailed notes are in the HR committee. Something new that we will be doing is that we will be doing an exit survey report in July and January of each year. The open benefits enrollment is underway, and it sounds like that is going smoothly as far as that's concerned. Future meeting planning for December is going to be consent agenda, employee wellness committee update, support staff salary update that we had done a rehaul on, and substitute staffing report. Action items, the resolution that we have here. And then Margaret will work with the calendar group to develop a survey schedule for the non-traditional calendar options and beyond. Exit survey information will be added to a regular rotation. Next meeting date is December 9th.
Thank you, Tina. Next up, planning.
All right, we got a lot to talk about.
3 minutes.
Yeah, not gonna hold it. We got 3 different meetings. All right. Well, you should have planned accordingly. So strategic planning, we had a lot going on in planning this month where we barely kept it to 2 hours. Strategic planning update, I'm not going to read everything to you. There's a lot of key information in there. But basically, Jason Bull, the Director of Innovation Technology, Data and Strategy, did a lot of updating regarding next steps to that planning process. So take a look. He is going to outline for us year 1 in action steps, which would be forthcoming. Secondly, regarding referendum planning, did some work talking about the referendum work. Subcommittee met. You got that information earlier today. You kind of saw that presentation. So there's my subcommittee report woven into that. Board development, I shared a number of items that came out of the last board retreat in terms of action items, et cetera. One of the main things that came out of that, I just lost it, was the superintendent evaluation. We had talked about the possibility of using executive session for that. I will look into that, but I don't know where that's going to go. In the present time, we have to look at where we are now, and the committee went along with my request, which you would have seen in board docs, to shorten our our superintendent evaluation process from 3 days of a summative to 2. You should have gotten an email from Lynn to solidify the date. So if you haven't done that, we need that ASAP because we're on a timeline to get the summative done. So that way Jared can take care of getting the goals written, which then leads us into our next cycle. Remember, from the time we do our summative until the time he writes the goals, what's fair? A week, a couple weeks, a month to be able to write those effectively. And then for us to find a date on the calendar, we don't want to get goals settled in March and April. We need to get those sooner as opposed to later. So if you haven't gotten those dates back to Lynn, please do that today or tonight or tomorrow. Probably not tonight, any more so tomorrow. Big discussion around the extending our work with the Donovan Group. And what we had heard loud and clear at the committee level earlier on was we wanted to see the product that came out of the out of the strategic plan. We've now seen that. And so short version, the committee recommends extending this to the agenda tonight for full board recommendation to extend our work with the Donovan Group to support planning on referendum, not just the strategic plan. Additionally, another part of a subcommittee, which I'm going to weave in here, was collective commitments. Dan partnered with me as a subcommittee and Craig joined us to work on collective commitments will be shared with the entire group on November 20th, and that'll get kind of a board stamp of approval at that point in time. So we're not going to go into discussion today. That'll be more so on the 20th. And then I already talked briefly about the superintendent evaluation. That I'll get more information forthcoming, and then we'll give you more of a timeline there. But if you're looking for that revised timeline, look back in board documents. Or sorry, board documents. God, it's getting late. Holiday social. We've done a holiday social in the past, and that kind of went with HR last year, but talking with Tina, it really is housed more in planning. So working with Lynn, we will be doing a simple holiday social this year with our administrative team from the ESC as well as our principals, et cetera. And it's just going to be basically cheese and sausage, cookies, very social, nothing real structured. So just a really meet and greet. We've got new staff, new board members, and kind of building that relationship piece. And then if you can see, there are 7 action items that we're working through right now, many of which are done already, but that'll help keep our foot to the fire.
Thank you. Policy, Craig.
We met on Wednesday, November 6th. All committee members were present and about a third of the ESC. and as well as Diana and Sam. We discussed the transgender guideline for students. I'm sorry, the administrative guideline regarding transgender students for about 45 minutes. Jared was asked to help facilitate that discussion, and we're thankful for both Sarah Odenhoven and Jared's involvement with helping us navigate through that process. Neola policies 6,000 group 2. We had discussion over 10 different policies there. One specifically, 6320, David had some questions about some verbiage being refined. That is not on the agenda for first read tonight, and I'll probably come back for the next policy committee meeting on December 4th. All of the other policies in the group 4, which is 1, looks like job-related expenses, then policies 3431 and 4431 regarding employee leave. Those are also up for first read. And Superintendent Burke will continue to work on property and operations policies, as many as possible, for the December policy committee meeting. The next meeting is December 4th.
Thank you, Craig. Next is the consent agenda 9349. It includes the minutes, the committee summaries, personal staffing, approval of bills, first and second read of policies as referred by the policy committee. Do I have a motion on 9349? Motion by Fred, second by Sam. Any additional discussion on resolution 9349? Okay, what do we call that when everybody votes at once? Acclamation. There we go. We good on that, everybody? Acclamation vote on 9349. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. You can't do an acclamation on that? On bills. Oh, damn it. Sorry. Okay, let's do a roll call then. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And the motion carries. Next up is resolution 9350. This is the WHS course of studies, course additions and updates. These were all run through the Ed Services Committee. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Brett, second is Sam. Any discussions or questions on this motion? Tina.
No, the updated one would be WHS. But I can send that one. This reflects the one that does not have the most.
Okay. You want to grab a mic if you can? Thank you.
So sorry. That was mind blowing. Okay, bad joke. I had questions regarding the courses and things like that that were as far as like the proposed and the pathway and things like that, because some courses I know in the some of the courses as far as the technology and engineering sector hadn't run in, over 5 years. And so I'm like, okay, well, why do we still have those as an option listed? Because as kids are looking at the course book and they're planning that out, and it's like, oh, well, just kidding. That's not really an option. So you really can't plan. But so then there was an updated flow chart that I was sent. And so I don't know if that's something that needs to be included with the resolution, or is that something that will be included with the course book?
Hello, okay. What you're voting on tonight are the course changes that were proposed at Ed Services. You are going to also then, next month, is what we have it slated for. The whole course handbook will go through Ed Services and then also to the board level, and you'll be voting on the final course booklet. That's where you should see some of those changes that you're talking about. Okay.
Thank you.
And Tina, was that related just to the Tech Ed course flow chart that you had that question regarding?
Yes.
Okay. And Jesse did bring to Ed Services, I don't think that was actually part of the minutes, but he had that to augment the discussion.
Can you hear me?
Okay, so might not be available now, but it will be in the course book in December per Principal Kerr.
Yep.
And I know you know that, but I just wanted to say it because
Yep.
maybe somebody else didn't hear it.
No problem.
Okay, any additional discussion on 9350? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
And the motion carries. Next up, resolution 9351, the 2025-2026 and 2026-2027 district calendars, as referred to the board from the HR committee. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
That was a second from Greg. There you go. Thank you. Any discussion or questions on that?
Tina, good job working with the committee on this and Margaret and putting this together.
I wanted to echo those same comments. I really appreciate the hard work that the HR committee did on the calendar committee. I think it was it looks good. And it's always been a kind of something I always comment on in the past. So I think you did a great job. Thank you.
I'm not arguing or thinking it's bad. We are having the next 2 years. Oh, don't we usually just do 1 year? So I just didn't know for clarification if there was a reason for that. Okay. I think I missed.
No, that's a great question. Totally valid question. And I think that, came from Dr. Burke as far as like, can we give the families 2 years to plan as far as that goes? And then that also gives us the opportunity to be able to take a look, like, are there any one-offs? Like, are we just going to school on Friday, for something as far as that's concerned, and to be able to give that room for planning.
Yeah, one of the big things that we heard from our community is that if we could plan ahead more and show thoughtful planning, that it would go a long way. And so that communication to us, we took and ran with the calendar. And then as we move forward, looking at that, then we'll be still producing a calendar every year. It'll just be for them one out, right? And then I'll give families way more heads up to any changes that happen.
We did also go forward with 2 years of the modified traditional, because the survey results came back so strong in support of that model. Had it not come back so strong in support of that model, we would have done 1 year and then kind of gone back and seen what the second year was going to bring. Does that sound right, Margaret? Okay.
And I'm going to have to make you define modified traditional, please.
Yes, as I did in my report, sir. Modified traditional, again, means that the last couple years at Thanksgiving, we did a whole week off. And then whenever graduation, like this year graduation, I think is like June 14th. Don't quote me on it, dear God, but it's in the teens. Okay. And a lot of the feedback is that's really late. And so modified traditional means that everything else is pretty much the same with the calendar. We're not changing the number of days that we're going to school. It's Monday through Friday. We're not changing the hours of the school. That in respect is traditional. Modified means that they will have school on Monday and Tuesday of Thanksgiving week, and then we will be out. The graduation will occur prior to the 9th of June. Those were parameters of the HR committee.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Any further questions I can help answer?
Thank you. I was familiar with traditional as being pre-COVID, so if it was modified pre-COVID, that would have, traditional is a, yeah. Just want to say. Okay, any additional questions? Okay, this one you said I can do a consent on? Voice acclamation, please. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, 9352, intent to move to referendum. The language of the ballot is how do you want to call it? The proposed, the tentative, the initial language. And I'll read this into the record. Is the question will, as currently tentative as, shall the Watertown Unified School District, Jefferson and Dodge Counties, Wisconsin be authorized to exceed the revenue limits specified in section 129.91 of Wisconsin statutes by $7 million beginning with the 25-26 school year for recurring purposes consisting of operational and maintenance expenses. And I will add that fiscal still is considering tweaking this by inserting the word instructional somewhere, but that is a discussion for a different day. The discussion today is that we are in agreement that this is the notice of intent, and I'll take a motion on that.
Motion.
Brett, second, Bike. You're asking me to read what it actually says. The motion is, be it resolved that the Watertown Unified School District of Education approve the district move forward with a $7 million operational recurring referendum in April of 25. Okay, any discussion? Tina?
I don't know where is appropriate to, I know there's still discussion happening and things like that. I fully understand and know that we do need to go to referendum because state funding doesn't keep up with the demands of what we need. So I totally get that. I know that it's funds for operation. But I would, as far as the method and how to get there, I know that we're looking at buildings and, what all of that looks like. I think that a lot more work needs to be done as far as that's concerned to be able to, I'd rather us consolidate some building space versus cut operations, that kind of thing. And so I didn't know if that's appropriate here or where that is. I know I had mentioned that at planning, but I don't know where that further discussion fits.
Yeah, so that's very appropriate. And at fiscal as well as in our subcommittee, we had some good discussion around how to go out to the public. First of all, we know that we are in a deficit model right now. We had a referendum in 2018. That was a 5-year referendum. We built up some available resources through that. But now we're spending at a larger rate than our resources are available. Currently, we're near $6 million deficit a year as we operate. So the thought behind going to an operational referendum was to make sure that we took out a referendum for exactly what we need. So that way we can secure our operations as they exist now. And then further develop our processes to look at getting into a better fiscal model by looking at some building reductions and other things as we start losing more and more enrollment into the school district. Because we know we're going to have to do both. We can't just survive on an operating referendum. If we want to stay in the same model and we were asking for a referendum to stay in the same model, we would be up to about 8.5, maybe even 9 million a year ask. 7 million a year is asking for what we need. And that's also coming with some cuts. We're looking at $500,000 worth of cuts into next year just to try to stay fiscally responsible in that model. We've been fiscally responsible for a number of years. Last 10 years, our revenues have only increased by 5%. Our expenditures have increased quite a bit more than that. We have taken a 5-year referendum back in 2018 and strung it out at least 7 years, going into our 8th year. We're doing everything we can. We've deferred maintenance on our buildings. We've deferred curriculum. We've deferred a lot of our professional development to help our teachers become even better. And we know we need both. The committee, both committees, as well as the subcommittee, are recommending we go forward with the first thing, which is to secure our operations. Then the second is to talk about how we can get into a better model. So hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, we had a motion and a first. Any additional discussion? Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Motion carries. Next is 9353, the Donovan Group contract extension. I'm not sure it came out of committee. I think this is more of a, is this planning? Planning? Planning. Okay. Planning, the contents or the details of that agreement are attached to your resolution. Do I hear a motion? So move Tina, right? Or Diana? Tina, second. Diana, got it. Discussion.
Yes. So I had voiced my concern at the committee about this particular contract. I was not clear as how the committee looked at any other particular contract providers. I felt that this was a rush decision, despite the fact that we had brought forth concerns about that earlier when the conversation first occurred. And I don't know that I can support moving forward with this particular contract extension at this time.
Thank you, Craig. Additional discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. At least I did the math in my head. I think it carried. Okay, seeing nobody in the audience who's interested in 9355, we're just going to go over and skip over that resolution. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I did that. Yeah, I just did a beat down. Yeah. Motion 9355, construction management service contract.
So moved.
Yeah, so
Seconds.
so moved. We have a motion from Mike. The document is to award, is this award? Yeah, to engage JP Cullen in long range facility planning for the district. Both I believe maintenance as well as any repairs, capital needs. No, that only took a minute. I got it. Yeah, I got it. That was it. All right, good. Any questions? Fiscal referred this. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yep. Did I? And I had a motion on that. I need a motion. Craig, second. Fred. Okay, now discussion.
Just a comment on this, that I want to give a shout out to Kevin. You guys did a lot of good due diligence on this, and appreciate the work you did to bring this together.
We're voting on the organization, not the specific plan.
Yeah, so what we're doing here, we went through a long process by which we took bids, interviewed candidates, and are looking at a construction management firm. In this case, we're putting Cullen's name first. They were the top bid, and went through a great process. And like I said, a rigorous process. Kevin, you and Sarah Duncan in our business office really put together a top-notch program to try to find out who we can have come alongside our architectural firm, which is PRA, to find bid and look at different options to present to our community and lead a discussion within our community about where do we want to go next. I shared earlier in your last question, Ms. Johnson, about talking through First, meeting our financial obligations, our current needs for operation and keeping the doors open with the programs that we have intact. Now we have to talk about where are we going to put those programs and how are they going to thrive? Are they going to thrive in the same buildings we have now? And what is that going to cost us? Or are we going to restructure somehow in our current capacity to look at moving forward and what best facilities needs will support our programs in the future? And hopefully in a long future and one that puts us maybe into a better financial position later on. And so we're really looking at a lot of different options that are going to be presented. This construction firm, Cullen, has worked with us for a number of different referenda in the past. There are a number of people on their team who live in our school district or the surrounding area. And I think they're going to be a great team for us as we move forward. I know that because they team with us on apprenticeship students and other things that they do for our school district as well, which came out clear in that interview process. So with that, I really hope you guys approve them to move forward and come alongside with us in our plan to look at our facilities and see what our future holds.
Any additional questions? Okay, we had a motion and a first. Roll call, Lynn?
Yes.
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 Yes,
Yes.
and the motion carries.
Welcome to the team. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, this is now the time for our last of 3 public comment opportunities. This one's slated for 15 minutes. We will be following all protocols from the prior session as they are still in effect. So if you're interested in speaking, please approach the mic, fill out the card. Oh, there is no mic. We'll get you one. Thank you. Great. And I appreciate you sticking through this all. So fire away when you got the mic.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Sarah Zarling. I live on College Street here in Watertown. I'm a single mom with 2 boys here at Riverside. I'd like to say the appreciation is definitely very mutual. In fact, I just want to convey that I don't underestimate the work that you put in to serve our community and our students. And so I do appreciate you taking all this time out of your families and your lives to try and help to make our school district and our community a better place. I am here to speak in support of draft A. It's my fault for not being timely in sending an email or getting ahead in line faster to be able to say this sooner. But I want to share a personal story where it pertains to the issue of the restrooms in this policy. So I was sexually assaulted in a women's bathroom at a restaurant here in Watertown while I was out to dinner with my boys. It was not a guy trying to pretend to be a girl to come into the bathroom. It was simply a man who thought he had a right to come in there and do that to me. And that's the problem. I'm not worried about boys trying to pretend to be girls to get into bathrooms. I'm worried about grown men coming into the women's bathroom because they think that they can violate a woman. I think if we really want to worry about keeping our girls safe, then we need to be teaching boys that they don't have a right to do that to women. And yeah, that's very simple to me. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I did want to just briefly touch on the pronoun issue. That is just not a big deal to just call somebody by their pronouns that they prefer, whatever name they prefer. And then I guess I can say too that I do understand, I guess just from a 2 + 2 = 4 standpoint, and I am also a fitness instructor, so I do understand the physical advantages that boys and men can have over women. Obviously, being a victim of sexual assault, I understand that as well. And so I feel like the answer is not to continue to divide our students and to create, I guess, hostile or divisive environments for them, but to rather maybe try and create programs like sports programs that are co-ed or ways that help to welcome everybody as they are. And yeah, I'm sorry, I'm pretty spent at this point. So that's mostly what I wanted to say. So thank you.
Hi, good evening, and thank you for staying so late. My name is Monica Burkert-Brist. I'm the Episcopal priest and pastor at St. Paul's Episcopal Church here in Watertown. And prior to being ordained, by way of full disclosure, I'm also a licensed attorney, and I spent most of my adult career specializing in federal civil rights law at the federal court level, including mostly here within the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals that you referenced earlier tonight.
Join the
I
meeting.
appreciate the opportunity to spend just a couple of minutes with you because I didn't want you to adjourn tonight thinking that the only messages you heard and saw tonight are reflective of the entire faith community of this city, nor of many people that did not come tonight and appear because of the crowd or who got turned away at the door because you met capacity. I am also a pastor. I'm a pastor of young people, and I have also seen firsthand the trauma visited upon many of our young people who are LGBTQ and or children of any type who feel they are different or who feel they are treated differently. And I know every day, all of you as board members and the staff and the teachers and the administrators of this district care about all of those children. And on behalf of all of us who are here tonight, I'm sorry you were subjected to some of the behavior that you were tonight. I think this community is better than that, and it saddens me that that's the kind of public meeting we had. I also want to say that I think you spent a whole lot of time on a solution in search of a problem. And unfortunately, I think your timing couldn't have been worse because we are coming off a cycle in this country where we have spent months being barraged with ugly and misleading ads, social media images, and AI generated things that have frightened people. And people are understandably anxious and understandably and reasonably concerned about the welfare of their children. And unfortunately, some of them have been seriously misled, and that was reflected a lot tonight. What I didn't hear were facts. Facts about the policy you've had in place for 8 years and what was wrong with it, in the sense that I heard nothing about incidents, about complaints, about sexual violence, or sexual incidents involving children and transgender people, young people in our school system. Our concern should be for the safety of all of our children. And the reality is that our girls in our society are much more at risk of harm from men and boys than they are from any transgender people. And the transgender young people of our community are much more at risk. I'd like to end on hopefully a bit of a high note. I realize I only have 24 seconds left. I hope we learn to treat each other better going forward. Mostly, I felt sad about the way that people behaved at this meeting tonight. We need to learn ways to respect the differing interpretations of faith we have in this community. And most of all, we need to respect each other's humanity. And I hope as leaders, you'll continue to set that example. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Barb Weiss. I live at 1118 Riverview Lane in Watertown. I did not speak earlier because I am a graduate of Watertown High School. I'm also a retired staff member from Watertown High School, and I have 2 adult children that graduated from this district. But I'm not currently a parent, and I felt the parents and students that are current should have the mic at the beginning. However, I would like to share some of my experiences as a staff member. I happen to be a morning person, which meant that I often got to school very early. I was often maybe one of the first staff members inside the building. Because of where my classroom was, I went through past many lockers because I'm at the end of the second floor on the second story. On more than one occasion, I had to take a Post-it note off of a locker that was a homophobic slur. Now think about that. That is something that can be done when no one sees you. And I had to do it more than once. That was done in secret. There are many other incidents that unfortunately don't happen in secret. Many of our LGBTQ students are very much harassed during the day at the high school. And I'm unfortunately think that what you did tonight is actually going to encourage that. And I'm asking Mr. Burke and the administration that is sitting here and the staff of the Human Services and the Guidance Department, make sure that they are checking in with our LGBTQ students on a regular basis, because I'm afraid what may be happening to them at the moment. And I'm afraid that for our community, because as several people said, the suicide rate for LGBTQ students is higher. And I'm afraid that at some point we may be grieving in this community. And that is something, as a Christian, I don't want to have to do because they're an LGBTQ person. And I hope that when we talk about caring about all students, that includes our LGBTQ students. Now, quickly, a number of years ago, before the pandemic, my husband and I were traveling in the South. We were at a restaurant which had one restroom for everybody. And I was amazed. The doors behind you for the kitchen are how all the doors were hung on the various stalls. Everybody was using the same bathroom, or restroom in this case, there's no bath in it. And then the wash basins were just along the wall. So I was washing my hands next to a gentleman. But you could not, I don't know who invented the doors in the bathrooms. Personally, I think they're terrible no matter whether it's single sex or not. But if you hang them like a regular door, it wouldn't be an issue. Thank you.
Hello. Good evening. My name is Jim Drinwater. I'm resident of Watertown. You guys already know that. I have some mixed feelings about the way the vote went tonight. I'm definitely happier that the amendment went through than if the amendment hadn't gone through, and that's for certain. But there is one thing that really concerns me, and that's that, as it was so eloquently put earlier this evening, there are no magic force fields on our bathrooms that keep predators out. There just aren't. Policy is not going to do that. But what policy might do is embolden those that so pushed for it. And that's what I'm concerned about. One of the gentlemen came up this evening and talked about people that don't know how to raise their kids right. But I can tell you that my daughter's not the one who's bullying people for being members of the LGBTQIA community. No, she's one of those members who gets bullied on a daily basis. And the children of the people that so push for this policy are the children who have that same mindset pushed on them at home. They are the same people. And I'm not saying there's no value to any of this. You know, everybody has their own opinion, and I guess that's okay, but it's not okay to take that to school and to make my daughter feel like she's less than because of it. It's not okay for that to be spread to any other students here in Watertown. And my fear is that tonight, by voting for this piece of policy, this board has chosen to embolden that community in such a way that it will put my child and other children of the LGBTQ community at further risk. Not at risk, at further risk. I am already dealing with suicidal ideation in my household. I am already dealing with a child that does not want to go to Watertown schools. It's hard. It's hard to deal with. Every single one of us parents is trying our absolute best to try and do what's best for our kids. And right now, I am not certain anymore that Watertown schools are right for my children. We talk about losing children left and right, and I know I only account for 3, soon to be 4 kids in the district. That's still 3 or 4 kids. That's still 3 or 4 kids worth of funding. And the worst part is that's 3 or 4 kids that get lifted up and pulled out of their classes who now have to adapt and overcome even more because of what's going on. I appreciate that each and every one of you appeared to really mull it over and think about it and work through it. I really do. But I'm not entirely certain that the direction this board went tonight was a positive one. I hope it is, but I'm not certain. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Chris O'Brien, 806 South Fifth Street, apartment. First, thank you for your service to the town. And it's not an easy job, but thank you for doing it. I was a town council member myself in Connecticut before I moved here. So you guys, especially when you're dealing with children, a lot of important decisions to make and opinions to weigh. First, I want to say sort of the conduct of tonight. The doors were locked at 6:15. This is a public hearing, a public meeting, at least to attend. I understand it's not a public hearing, but it's a public meeting to attend. This room and the overflow room were at capacity. I asked one of the police officers, hey, I got friends trying to get in. Can they get in? No, the doors are locked. I understand, of course, fire code, you have to have only a certain number of people here, but this is a school. How many rooms we got here? Can we open up more rooms? And even if you can't broadcast into those rooms, people can perhaps wait there out of the rain and wait for a spot to open up or go on their phones to watch the meeting from there. Secondly, about conduct of the audience. I used to go to the legislature in Connecticut, and they would begin a meeting by saying, asking for no expressions of approval or disapproval from the audience. You might take that as a suggestion, maybe. I haven't been to too many other public meetings in Wisconsin, but it seems to be the culture from one board, school board to another in different towns too, maybe about holding up signs for, I have to hand it to everybody, especially the students that came up here expressing one of you for another in front of so many people. But it's intimidating. It's intimidating for a lot of people. Maybe take that as a suggestion for the future out of respect for others. And hopefully the audience would hear that too. So a little bit of time, just my thoughts on this. I'm a paramedic. I've had a residence here in Watertown for 7 years, but been moving elsewhere in Connecticut, Texas. So two cases I'm going to tell you did not occur in Watertown or the area. I picked up a female who was transitioned to a male, and a separate case of male transitioned to a female. The female was suicidal that day. The male was not suicidal that day, but he was certainly very close. And so much compassion for these kids. They were in their early 20s. The female said she didn't fit in at her job, her work, her school. She seemed to have some good supports within her family. The male was the opposite. He had a gay partner who having a lot of trouble with. He was rebelling against his mother as well. And I asked him, I said, what medication is he getting? He's getting both testosterone and estrogen. And she was doing the same thing, estrogen and testosterone. And he was getting his medications from a well-known public facility, but no mental health support at all. And, when a child runs into the street, and we did a lot of compassion for them and wish follow up and hope they get the help they need. We have a lot of compassion. Anybody in this room, I know, if they saw a child run out to the street, they would grab that child and pull them to safety. If anybody we knew was going to engage in drugs or self harm or suicide, we would intervene. And I think that people want to feel special. They want to feel included and noticed. And that's why I think a lot of these young kids are exploring their gender ideology, and they have the right to do that, but we need to guide them. We need to correct them and bring them back on the right path. So thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Shane Walker. I wanted to begin by personally thanking you for the board for having this meeting and for their sacrificial service to our community. You guys are amazing. There were people here to clap. I would ask them to do so now, but that probably wouldn't help. Thank you. I have 4 children. 3 have graduated from the Watertown High School. My family moved from Baltimore, Maryland to Watertown in part so that our children could participate in the public schools. As a family, we are traditional Christians, which means we hold to the historical understanding of sexuality as expressed by the Old and New Testament, and generally held by all historical religions. In our time in Watertown, I have had multiple interactions with the principals and teachers in the high school and middle school over events which appear to be designed to push out traditional religious families. Allow me to share some examples. I had to remind a teacher that he was not allowed to make participation in extracurricular activities dependent on practicing on religious days according to school policy, the federal and state law, and Supreme Court decisions. My eldest son at age 12 was forced to watch a PG-13 movie even though he asked to go to the library. In the high school, he was assigned reading in an English class that defined all parenting as bullying, even good-hearted and well-intentioned parenting. This reading curriculum and website, hosting the readings implicitly related all support of traditional sexuality to Nazism. The assignment also required my son to actively protest against any authority in his life that supported traditional sexuality and my best efforts to be a parent. Each time I contacted the school, we had meetings or email exchanges that terminated in the school or the representative apologizing, but nothing really changed. The teacher apologized for not knowing that Christians consider Sunday a day of worship. The principal was sorry my son was publicly shamed and forced to sit and watch a movie forbidden at home. The principal and the English department were sorry that the assignment had accidentally slipped through. They had no idea how such a thing could happen. I have asked that political and religious bias training be provided to the staff, but as far as I know, that has not occurred. The general impression that I received from the Watertown Public School System is that they are aggressively attempting to convert my children to an understanding of sexuality that our religion forbids and that our families holding to our beliefs should be marginalized as a retrogressive religious grouping. Because of our experience, our youngest child now attends a public charter school outside of Watertown. I am not here to support any policy proposal, which is why I did not speak. I didn't come to talk about A or C. I'm here simply to ask the board to please make decisions that will allow the Watertown Public Schools to be a safe place for the entire community to receive an education. I don't want another apology. I would just like for the rules to be followed for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, all speakers. Do we have any online? Okay, and I'm going to say before I adjourn, I too would like to express my thanks for all the board members. You set a fine example tonight. I appreciate it. Well done. And let's do it again in a better circumstance next time. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion, Fred. Second, Mike. All in favor? Adjourn.